champion. Since 1911, the man who wins this race each year becomes a true hero of American sports. The Super Bowl hero. The Masters champion. The Indy 500 winner joins this elite group, for the driver who wins this event has won the biggest automobile race. He has the fastest car and has driven it better than anyone else. Victory at Indianapolis gives a driver all the stature of a World Series MVP. The winner of this race revels in the same glory as an American Olympic champion. They have all realized the supreme accomplishment in their sport.
You just don't know what Indy means.
Today, 33 drivers will make the high-speed charge to Indy's checkered flag. One man will defeat all the rest. His story will be told 1,000 times over. His name will appear in tomorrow's headlines. He will be famous and wealthy, and for the rest of his life, he will be known as a winner of the world's greatest race, the Indianapolis 500. Live from Indianapolis, ABC Sports proudly presents the drivers and teams of the Pep Boys Indy Racing League in the 82nd running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. This is Paul Page. It rained in Indianapolis overnight, but the rain stopped several hours ago, and the track is drying. For the latest update, let's go to Gary Gerald.
And Paul, right at the start-finish line with the Director of Operations for the Speedway, Brian Barnhart. I know it's been a whirlwind all night long. Where do you stand at this point, and what are your concerns?
Well, we've done a wonderful job this morning. The maintenance crews have been working real hard all morning long. We've got the 6 jet dryers, and we've been running the wreckers and the fire trucks all day. We're probably about 15 to 25 minutes behind schedule. We're going to grid the race cars here in the next 10 minutes, which should put us, like I say, about 15 to 25 minutes off the scheduled start time of 11. So we're pretty pleased with that. With the amount of rain we've had the last couple of days, I'd be happy to get going at that time.
We're excited. Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul?
So the tension is building. Who will be the next American hero? Perhaps Arie Luyendyk. He holds the record for the fastest race, the fastest single lap, and the fastest qualifying ever. Or will it be Scott Sharp, who sat out last year's race after crashing hard against the wall twice? Or Tony Stewart in his 3rd year? He's led his first 2 races. Can he lead and win today? Or Jack, could it be Mark Dismore?
He broke his neck simply trying to qualify for the 91 Indy 500, Paul. And today, he is sequestered with a couple of his crew members as he prepares for his 3rd 500 start. Or will it be Robbie Unser, Gary Gerald?
Well, this rookie's father, Bobby, his uncle Al, his cousin Al Jr. have won this great race a combined 9 times. Robbie Unser would love to make it number 10. Or could it be Raul Boesel, Jerry?
Could this 10th time be the charm for the Brazilian? 3 times in his 9 previous starts, he has seen victory slip away in the waning laps. Paul?
Those are just a few of the drivers in the 82nd running of the great 500-mile race. There are 33 in all. Most will spend 200 laps, 500 miles, traveling at speeds well above 200 miles an hour on a track that is only 50 feet wide. There is so much hope in the starting field, so many wonderful anecdotes. There are the 2 former champions who have tasted the sweetness of milk in Victory Lane, and they long for another taste. And there are those who have tried and tried again and fell short, and they are tired of being second. They're the ones who have traveled a rocky road at Indianapolis, battling the obstacles to get their chance. There are the little teams with 1 car and 1 engine and few sponsor dollars. There are the big operations like Team Menard's guys with all of the resources to win. And there are the 8 rookies, winners and champions elsewhere, but today will be a very steep learning curve when they run in traffic for the very first time. Now, A.J. Foyt has been all of those since he first came here as a driver in 1958. Today, as an owner, he has something he's never had before. 2 drivers on the front row. Meet A.J.'s boys.
This A.J. Foyt on pole-winning car number 11 was clearly the class of the field in qualifying. With a 4-lap average of 223.5 miles per hour, it is 2.5 miles per hour faster than anything else that will start today. Its driver, 32-year-old Arizona native Billy Boat, not only drives fast, he learns quickly as well. A year ago, he unknowingly auditioned for Foyt while driving an aggressive mud-slinging midget race just down the road at 16th Street Speedway. Foyt instantly knew this young man had both the talent and the temperament to make the transition from the tight oval to the terrifying super speedways. Witness this pole at Indy as proof of A.J.'s point. Outside of row 1 sits A.J. Foyt's other car, bearing his own famous number 14. Its driver, soft-spoken Swede Kenny Breck, hopes his second start at Indy is less eventful than a year ago when he was victimized by a chain reaction crash and eliminated from competition before even completing a single lap. We are now joined by Super Tex and his two super sophomore drivers. And Kenny Brick, I got to ask you, how much of the disappointment of last year's aborted start linger today? Any anxiety about lap number one?
No, we're just going to go out there and do the best. I have a great team behind me, the AJ4 Power team, and a good crew and everything, and AJ to help, so I'm not worried. We're going to do a good job today.
All right, Billy Boat, you had speed to burn in qualifying. How soon will you use it, or will you wait till later to show your hand?
Well, it's going to be the last 50 laps, I think, that are really going to make the biggest difference. So you got to be there on the end, and you want to lead the last lap, not the first lap. So I think that's going to be our strategy, try to be there at the end and try to lead that last lap.
AJ, it has been a magical month for Team Foyt. I mean, you guys are obviously the odds-on favorite. Never one to mince words. What do you have today for Team Menard, Stewart and Buell, Team Treadway with Leyendijk, and the rest of the field?
Well, you know, when it's always race day, you always change your strategy when the green flag goes down. But I think both these cars have something at the end of the day. If we're still running at the end of the day, they're going to have to beat us.
You win the Indy 500 once, you become an American hero. You win it 4 times, you become an American legend. Here stands the legend, flanked by 2 candidates to become the next American hero. Paul?
AJ is the only man to win the race in both front and rear engine cars. He was the last one to win in a front engine car back in 1964. Now, here is the starting field. It's the first time in history that 3 sophomores have occupied the front row. There's a Texas connection. 2 Foyt cars from Houston flank Greg Ray from Plano. In second row, Team Menard's boys. Since 1911, only 3 winners have come from row 4. There's some heavy hitters there today. Veterans fill out row 6, but only once has that row seen a victory. Co-winners Floyd Davis and Maury Rose in 1941. Row 8 is filled entirely with rookies. The defending champion, Arie Leyendijk, starts 28th. Twice, the race has been won from that position. 4 times, the final row has produced runner-up finishes. The last was Scott Goodyear in 1982. Our Tom Sneva also did it in 1980. No one has ever won from row 11. When we come back, you'll meet one of the strongest teams, but one yet to win at Indy. The Team Menard guys. Moving closer to the start of the race, they've already begun to push the cars out onto the track. Team owner John Menard first fielded a car in the 500 in 1982. His best finish was 3rd in 1992 with Al Unser. This year represents his best chance yet to go to victory lane. He has 2 aggressive drivers in today's race. Meet the Team Menard guys.
27-year-old Tony Stewart will start his 3rd Indy 500 this year, but for the first time, it won't be from the front row. Tony has always dreamed about Indy. In fact, it seems as if he's worn a helmet virtually all his life. Now listen to this. Over the past 52 weeks, this native Hoosier has run an incredible 65 races. Now his teammate, on the other hand, comes from Grosse Pointe, Michigan. His name, Robbie Buell, and he'll start this car next to Tony in the middle of row 2.
34-year-old Robbie Buell works in a world of speed and controlled emotion. But Robbie lives in a world filled with compassion. He comes from a well-heeled Detroit family, a clan who instills a strong sense of obligation to help those whose lives have not been so fortunate. Robbie does this through his Racing for Kids program. Hospitals are normally avoided by racing drivers. They're frightening reminders that a racing career is fleeting, that mortality can easily override any success on the track. But Buell's been making hospital visits for the past 9 years.
I want to be able to share the love for what I do, and that's driving a race car. And that excitement and that passion and commitment to what I do, and have them get a sense of that.
Through Racing for Kids, Robbie Buell discovered a spirit that reinforced his commitment and in the process imprinted his life. 7 years ago, Erica Linson-Bigler was one of those kids. He taught her about racing and she taught him about perseverance. In the process, they forged a friendship that was painfully brief.
You know, she had a great time coming to the races with us, and that she was, you know, treated well and, you know, called me a friend, I guess.
If you're around Erica for 15 minutes, it kind of rubs off on you, you know. You knew that
she didn't sit around and wait for things to happen. She tried to make them happen, you know, while it was there. She wasn't a quitter. And Robbie's definitely not a quitter.
Erica and the whole Racing for Kids program has had a really strong impact on my whole life.
Well, that Racing for Kids poster stands sentry in Team Menard's gasoline alley garage stall. And Robbie Buell, you talk about passion. If you could describe to someone the passion that it takes to run the Indy 500, what would you say?
Well, it's you put everything else on life, you know, on hold. And this is where all your time and energy goes, is to be able to be here and race.
Now, you've got a stout teammate right next to you in the front, in that second row, in Tony Stewart. And Tony, as a native Hoosier, you've seen the Indy 500 from the grandstands and now from the cockpit. How burning is the desire in the gut to win this 500?
I guess the best way I could describe it is I'd give up every win and every championship that I've ever earned in my life to win this race just one time. So, you know, I'd give up everything I've done, you know, in the 27 years that I've been alive just to win this thing one time. So it's hard to describe it in words. I mean, it's like Robbie said, it's just a burning feeling inside that it's just pure desire.
How about luck? How much luck does it take?
Well, I mean, I've promised I'd rather be lucky than good any day, and if we win it by luck, it's still a win. It doesn't matter 10 years down the road. When they look it up in the record books, it's under the win column. So, you know, there's a lot of luck. I mean, there's a lot of variables that you know, both Robbie and I as drivers can't control, and we can't control the other drivers, and we can't control every piece that's on the race car. So, you know, you got to have some luck on your side.
Paul?
Something for both of them to shoot for. The most laps led by a winner was 199 by Billy Arnold in 1930. In 1912, Ralph De Palma led 196 laps of the 200, but he finished 11th. When we return, meet the elite, Arie Luyendyk, the two-time winner, and Buddy Zier, the 96 winner. Family tradition continues at Indianapolis. That's Johnny Unser on the right and rookie Robbie Unser over on the right-hand side of the screen. So they head out, ready to go racing at Indianapolis. Now, Tom Sneva has raced here 18 different times. He won in 1983. They call him the Gas Man. First man at 200 and 210 miles an hour. This event is absolutely gigantic, Tom, with its own very special pressures.
Well, unlike many big events, Paul, at Indianapolis, you must qualify each and every year. At the Masters, you win it once. After that, you never have to qualify again. At Indy, you must stand up in the seat every year just to qualify, as one of the fastest 33 to start this 500-mile race. This year, both past winners of the race have had to struggle just to qualify. The competition and closeness of the field is better than any time in the last 20 years. In fact, last year's winner is starting at the back of the field.
But Arie Luyendyk, of course, is looking for a possible third win. Now, Arie has mastered this day twice. There's his car number 5. It starts in 28th position. It's been 31 years since a defending champion has started that far back. The car is G-Force serial number 001, the first IRL car G-Force ever built, and the same car he used to win last year's race. Last year, he drove that car on the grass along the backstretch, trying to pass Tony Stewart.
Arie, from a start on the pole a year ago back to the 10th row today, sort of sums up your miseries this month of May. What do you consider your biggest challenge today here in the early laps?
I would say the early laps, starting that far back, having to deal with the traffic and the turbulence, the methanol that gets thrown into your face from all those cars in front of you, and pretty much being back there is a very difficult place to start. But while we're at it, I want to say hi to my twin boys, to Luca and Alec. Hi, guys. See you next week.
Don't be surprised if Team Treadway gambles early on pit strategy purely for track position. Paul?
The number 91 car belongs to Buddy Lazier. Now, Buddy is Indy's comeback kid. He's starting in the middle of the 4th row. When he climbed from the cockpit in Victory Lane in 1996, Buddy tried to smile. But he was racked with pain from a shattered back suffered 2 months earlier in a crash at Phoenix. Here's Jack Arute.
Well, the problems with the shattered back are now long in ancient history, but the memories of that Indy 500 continue to linger. Buddy Lazier, they say winning an Indy 500 changes a man. Has it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just, there's no way you can fathom how big it is to win this race. I mean, no matter where you go in the world, they know the Indy 500, and I think if we could finally just win a second one, it'd be even sweeter than the first.
Pre-race jitters, are there any?
Always. I mean, I just it really bothers you for some reason. I mean, I think this is my 6th race, and you're always nervous. I mean, this is a big event, big race, but also this first lap is so critical. I mean, this is a difficult time.
Well, Paul, a difficult time. He tries to focus, and he thinks about the command to start engines.
Buddy Lazier. Only 6 times has a rookie won the race, but not since Graham Hill back in 1966. Once again, this year's rookies play a prominent role in the field. Here's Gary Gerald to introduce the first-year hopefuls, the rookies.
For 15 years, Donnie Beechler has toiled on the dirt tracks of Mid-America. Now he anxiously looks forward to his first IRL start. And completing the rookie cast, 22-year-old Jimmy Kite, whose '97 victory in the Copper World Classic at Phoenix paved the way for a shot at Indianapolis. But the month of May has not been kind to Kite. 3 wall-banging incidents in the span of 7 days made for a bleak debut. But the talented youngster persevered to become the fastest rookie in the field. Well, hoping to become a hero at Indianapolis, Jimmy Kite, how apprehensive are you after all those incidents with the concrete?
Well, you know, you can't be. I mean, you got to go out there and you got to run hard. It's what I get paid to do. You know, when things start coming our way, they're going to fall our way and we're going to start running good. So, but you know, the guys deserve a good run. I'm going to go out there and drive the same way I have every other day in my life. And as long as the brakes fall our way, we'll get a good finish.
Which means it'll be exciting. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Paul?
See the excitement in his eyes? As you saw with Jimmy Kite, the road to Indy is never easy, but for some, it's nearly impossible. When we return, we'll talk with some of the hard luck guys at Indy. Back live at Indianapolis as well-wishers move around the cars on the main straightaway. There are several drivers in this field with an uphill battle. A.J. Foyt's not one of them, working with his team. A rocky road, if you will, to make this race. Scott Sharp's number 8 Dallara is now lined up on the 7th row on the grid. No one has ever won from there since Foyt in 1961. This was one of 2 practice crashes that kept Sharp out of last year's 500. But Scott is just off a victory at the IRL's last race at Phoenix. Still, for him, Indy is a nemesis.
Scotty, since injuries forced you to miss this race last year, do you have a score to settle?
Well, not really, Jerry. You know, it's just exciting to be here, and you just have to feel if it's God's going to make it your day, if that's what it's going to be. And, you know, the Kelly Delphi team have given me just a fantastic opportunity. We just hope we can be around at the finish to really make it count.
One has to believe his comeback would really be complete, though, if he were to conquer Indy today. Paul?
Starts in the 7th starting position. Texan Greg Ray starts from the middle of the front row. He made it there with very little money compared with the big teams here. Only 2 days ago did a big sponsor actually come through. Until then, the fans handed him cash, which was then taped to the side of the car, along with the donor's business card.
And Paul, when the car went out to actually qualify in the middle of row 1, the currency was gone. I asked the crew why, and they said, hey, we had to eat. But all the financial woes are now by the wayside with the new sponsorship. But for Greg Ray, the moments before the Indy 500 are for solitude and for trying to get your thoughts together. So he tries to catch a nap before 500 miles of competition. For Greg Ray, this has been a very hectic week. His son celebrated his birthday on Friday. Today is his father's birthday. Greg Ray has been unable to take time out to buy any gifts. He says if we could go to Victory Lane, I could give them the biggest gifts of all. Paul?
Well, at Indianapolis, safety is the prime concern. Every year, the Speedway and the Pep Boys Indy Racing League work to increase the driver's chances in an accident. They have been very successful. This year, there is a new attenuated barrier installed inside of Turn 4 to soften the blow should a car hit the wall in that area. And you can keep up to speed on all those kind of facts from auto racing and stay in the fast lane with our ABC Sports online reporters, live trackside at every race. Don't forget, Jack at the Track. ABC Sports Online is on AOL. The most frustrating title of all is an also-ran. The racers say second place is really the first to lose. Coming up next, you'll meet two who are tired of second. Scott Sharp leaving the garage area, Gasoline Alley, as he heads out to the pit area to think about his 500 miles ahead. On the main straightaway, they have allowed the teams to warm the engines one final time. Now, there are over 300,000 permanent seats at Indy, making it the world's largest stadium. And that easily makes this race the world's largest single-day sporting event. The largest crowd estimate, nearly 500,000 fans. Now, car number 4 is driven by Scott Goodyear. His team is brand new this year. In the past, Scott Goodyear has had the most consistent bad luck at Indy. Here's Gary Gerald.
Well, we stand at the famed Yard of Bricks at Indianapolis, the scene of certainly the most memorable finish in the history of this grand race just 6 years ago. And it was Scott Goodyear and Al Unser separated by just a matter of feet. And Scott, I'm sure that that particular finish, even though it's 6 years ago now, is probably the most talked about thing when people come to you. And I'm sure it also dramatically changed your life.
Well, it certainly did. They said that if you won the race, it would certainly change your life from that point onwards. And I can tell you that finishing second changed my life. But, you know, as we stand here at the Yard of Bricks, I can tell you that I knew that we had not won the event when we passed the start and finish line, because you can feel the bricks when you go across them, even at 225 or 30 miles an hour. And I knew that I just started to feel the bricks, and I wasn't completely past Little Isle, so I knew that we finished second.
3 years later, Goodyear again was in position to win, but a controversial late race restart cost him mightily. It clearly still rankles.
There was a situation where there was other circumstances involved, and it still bothers me. And, you know, I know that we were across this Yard of Bricks first that year, and I feel that that wasn't really the correct decision to be made by the stewards. If the pace car had been doing the 100 miles an hour as it was supposed to be doing instead of the 77, it came out later and said that it was going 77 miles an hour in turn 4. I would have said that, you know, yeah, then I was at fault. I know two wrongs don't make a right, but there was a situation where there was other circumstances involved.
A year ago, a last lap restart again found Goodyear in a challenging position, but he didn't anticipate the green like Arie Luyendyk, and he had to be content with another second-place finish.
It's been so close only in a few years since we've been coming here, since 1990, and obviously I missed the 96 race, so I look at it and say we've been very close in a short space of time, and a lot of people say you're so lucky to come so close, but when you're so close, you want to win.
And live outside his motor coach, here is another opportunity for Scott Goodyear. How do you assess your chances today?
Well, I think we got a great chance today. We got a great team, and although qualifying didn't go as quickly as we wanted with a G-Force chassis, the car's been dynamite on full tanks, on traffic. Matter of fact, it almost feels better in traffic and with full tanks. So we hope maybe the Delaros don't have as much speed as they had in qualifying, also in traffic, but I think we got a great chance. We just got to get to 450 miles, make the car as good as it can be, and go racing.
And Paul, if you think about what could have been with just a matter of feet over the years for Scott Goodyear.
All right, Gary, consider this. In 3 separate races, for a total time of less than 1 second, Scott Goodyear has missed 3 chances to win the 500. Twice he has been second in close finishes, and it took him less than half a second to pass that pace car while leading. Were it not for that 1 second in time, Scott's face would appear on the Borg-Warner Trophy 3 times, and he would be nearly $3 million richer.
You know, Paul, no one would blame the driver of this car if he felt that Indy owed him something. Roberto Guerrero has come close to winning, second his first year, third the next, and then fourth the following year. Back in 1987, Roberto Guerrero was leading and well within sight of his first ever Indy 500 victory when his car stalled, exiting the pits. Heartbreak for Guerrero. In 1992, his first career pole position ended in disappointment before the green flag. So Roberto Guerrero, as you begin to make your way out to the Indy 500 starting field for the 82nd running, do you have the car this year that's capable of winning?
I think so. I think we have the car and the team. The Pagan team has been working very hard. I think we just need a couple of breaks to go our way, get the yellows the right way, and not get in trouble. I think we have as good a shot as anyone.
When you first came here, it looked easy. It's become very difficult.
Absolutely. You hit it right on the spot. You know, the first 4 years I thought, I can't believe I'm finishing second, and now I would be very happy with a good finish.
Well, Paul, he and his wife Katie are making their way out to the yard of bricks, and hopefully he'll cover it 200 times.
And perhaps this will be the day for Roberto Guerrero. Others begin moving out of the garage area and toward the track. There is Buddy Lazier, his wife Kara. Buddy is, of course, the 1996 winner. Pancho Carter, who sat on the pole here, walked up to say good luck. Only 3 times has this race been run on today's date, May 24th. May 24th of 81, Bobby Unser won. The same date in 87, it was Al Unser. In 92, 24th, Al Unser Jr. 2 Unsers in the field today.
Although there are 3 different chassis manufacturers represented in today's field, the basic configuration for an Indy car is the same. They basically are open-wheeled, open-cockpit, single-seat machines composed of space-age carbon fiber and Kevlar. This is very, very strong, but it's also very light. These cars weigh just 1,600 pounds without the driver and the fuel, about half of what your passenger car weighs. Now, they're called ground effects machines. What does that mean? I'll show you. The air comes across the front wing, then comes beneath the side pod, an inverted airplane wing beneath here, then across the rear wing, and that sucks the car to the ground so they can turn left at 200 miles per hour. The engine, right here, a 700 horsepower, 4-liter double overhead cam, normally aspirated V8, capable of straightaway speeds of over 230 miles per hour at 10,000 RPMs. The fuel, not gasoline, methanol, 35 gallons of methanol in a tank right here behind the driver. Now here's the critical number, cost. This car, as it sits, would run you about $425,000. That's without the extra people and parts to operate it. Now, speaking about people talking about parts, let's check in with Jack Arute, another one of our Pep Boys Indy Racing League track facts.
Jerry, that 35-gallon tank is filled with 254 gallons that's right here in this onboard tank. It comes out of a hose into an aircraft quality nozzle. Now, we've got one of the nozzles here. It actually seats into the race car with the fuel man going this way. But there is also a big danger of fuel spillage. In that situation, with the fuel methanol, highly volatile, spilling onto hot parts, you have flame and fire potential. Well, there's a safety switch that the fuelers can use. As they see any fuel starting to leak out, they simply hit the kill button and it closes the valve, thereby shutting off the flow of methanol. Paul?
Well, there's Mike Groff, hoping that this year may bring his first Indianapolis 500 victory. He's tried 9 times. We'll return with more of our coverage of the Indianapolis 500 after this message and a word from our ABC station. Very soon, that straightaway will clear and the cars will be left alone to run. The ceremonies are very formal here. For those, we join the track public address system.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we prepare for the start of the 82nd running of the Indianapolis 500, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway would like to dedicate this event to the memory of Mary Fendrick Holman as a special tribute. Leading up to the start, we would like to welcome Elizabeth Birch, a student at St. Mary of the Woods College in Terre Haute, Indiana, to sing our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see
Elizabeth Birch of Terre Haute, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. And, of course, the Purdue University All-American Band.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please remain standing for the invocation to be delivered this morning by the Most Reverend Daniel M. Beekline, Archbishop of Indianapolis.
Lord God, we invoke your presence upon the greatest spectacle in racing, the 82nd Indianapolis 500-mile race. We come as peoples of the world, of many religious traditions, from other continents, countries, and our own home. We speak many languages, yet, O God, we are your one family. Now, with the Holman George family, we pause for a moment of silence in loving memory of Mary Fendrick Holman, so much a part of this grand tradition. Lord, may she rest in peace. Lord God, this Memorial Weekend, we offer thanks for the courageous service of our fallen ones. We ask a special blessing for the Holman George family and the many unsung people who contribute to this great spectacle. But Lord, this day belongs to the drivers. Protect them, their mechanics and crews. Keep them and us safe. And for the drivers, we pray, que le bon Dieu va avec vous, mega Gott sie begleiten, hut sei met u, Gud velsigne Dei, Dio di guida, vaya con Dios, vai con Dios, Godspeed. And Lord, the Holman George family wish the Pacers well. Amen.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we ask you to remain standing, please. On this Memorial Day weekend, we pause here in a moment of silence to pay homage to those individuals who have given their lives unselfishly and unafraid to make it possible for us to witness as free men and women the world's greatest sporting event. We also pay homage to those men and women who have given their lives unselfishly and without fear to make racing the world's most spectacular spectator sport.
Well, very wisely at this point in the ceremonies, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the Pep Boys Indy Racing League have built in a hold in case of weather conditions like we have today. The good news is that it should be a very short hold. The track was very wet when we arrived this morning, just after 6 o'clock local time, and then the rain stopped, the track began to dry, and they did a great deal of work to get this track all set to go. Now, Tom Sneva, on a deal like this, what does it do to the drivers? What do you think about sticking a hold right in here?
Well, here for a couple minutes, it's not going to bother them too much. If it was an hour, 2 hours, a half a day, or a day, that's another story. But 5 or 10 minutes, I think that's all we're going to get. These guys won't lose the edge that they built towards.
So no psychological disadvantage?
I don't think so, not on a short hold. If it was longer, then they'd have to be concerned about it. But for this amount of time, these guys are going to still be revved up.
All right, so we're close to ready to go. Let's go trackside and Jack Arute.
Paul, they call it a tub. It's carbon fiber, but for Sam Schmidt, it will be his office at speeds in excess of 215 miles an hour for 500 miles. Earpieces for the radio. When do the butterflies become bullets, Sam?
We try to be as late as possible so we don't have to think about it. But I really don't think it hits you until you're out there on the pace lap. I mean, we got a great car, and we're just going to try and hang it out there for the 200 laps. And I think we got good weather prediction for the day, so we're looking pretty comfortable right now.
As we look at a massive crowd of maybe 450,000 people, when you're going around during the parade laps, can you see them? Can you hear them? Do you feel them?
Yeah, you do. You feel like they're with you. You feel like they're right there in the car with you, and it's really hard sometimes to concentrate on those pace laps and what you need to accomplish during those pace laps. I catch myself thinking, oh, I gotta get the work done here, and then about the back stretch of that last pace lap, it settles down and you're ready to go.
Gary Gerald, one of the things that all of the drivers were cautioned about during the drivers' meeting, the private one yesterday, was the need for focus and concentration, not for just 5 laps, but for 200 laps.
And Jack, what better person to address that particular scenario about the need for concentration and focus? Eddie Cheever, getting ready to start his 9th Indy 500. What's the emotion like? Is there apprehension for a veteran driver at this place?
I think once you get past the start, the first 2 or 3 laps, and everybody's settled down, it really is just a question of pacing yourself. But I'm always very apprehensive at the start. There's too many things that you don't know that can and will occur. What side of the track do you go on? Who are you around? I've been walking up and down the pit trying to understand who's by me, to understand what's the best precautions. But you can have all the game plans in the world, and I promise you something will change before you get past the first corner.
Is there emotion that you have to battle as you take those parade and pace laps leading up to the green with all of the hype and the ceremonies in this vast crowd?
The more races I do here, the better off it becomes. I normally become quite emotional by the time they sing the national anthem, and it's very impressive as an American to sit in a place and see 500,000 people stand up to address our flag. So once you get past that, you sit in the car, and then really you are just at another racing track, a very fast racing track, and a racing track that at the end of the day, one of these 33 cars will be the winner of the most important race in the world. So we all want a piece of that.
Have a great race.
Thank you.
Jerry?
Well, one of the most impressive performances a year ago came from this man right here. Last year's Rookie of the Year, he started in the 3rd row and finished 3rd. We're talking about 37-year-old Jeff Ward. And Jeff, a year ago you came here as a rookie and were very impressive. Can you duplicate that performance today?
Well, I think so. I mean, I think I learned a lot last year. We're a little further back, but I don't think that should play into anything. We just have to get through the first couple laps.
The driver said they were impressed with your ability to concentrate. Concentration, a key part of a 500-mile event. How did you learn to concentrate so well?
Well, I don't know. I think the motorcycles, the track changes so much, so you have to be on your toes. But yeah, you just got to keep your concentration the whole race and just listen to the car and get it working right at the end like we did last year.
How do you deal with the turbulence at the start, all the air mixing as you come out of turn 4?
Well, it wasn't too bad last year, so this is the first time for me back here. But it shouldn't be any different than running up on 3 or 4 lap cars. So I think we have everything handled, and this Tabasco car should be up front.
He was impressive as a rookie last year, finishing 3rd. He's a sophomore driver here, starting outside of row 9. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, Jerry, at least 7 times during the course of 500 miles, a race car will pull onto pit road, and sometimes you'll see a crewman come out and turn one of these little levers. What he's doing is adding or taking out wing from the front of the car. And on this Reebok car driven by Davey Hamilton, adding and deleting wing can make the difference between handling and having a very bad day.
Oh, it definitely does. It makes a huge difference. One turn of wing is surprising you. You can't hardly see the wing move, but it makes a big difference in the car handling. And so they're very key.
Davey, a steering wheel in an Indy car nowadays is more than just a wheel. It's also an area for some buttons. Tell us about the red one and the black one.
Well, I've made mine pretty simple, actually. The black button is my communication button with the team, and the red button is our speed limiter button, kind of come down pit lane, and that enables me to have the world's greatest shoe bring me to the world's greatest race with Reebok, and we're just looking forward to this day.
Let's talk a little bit about the race. Does the delay affect you at all? You know, by this time we should be getting gentlemen start your engines as the command, and now we're in a temporary hold. What does it do to you emotionally?
You know, I don't think it affects me too much. Last year it was a little bit tough when the whole day went away, and then the second day went away, and it was the third day. But, you know, I know we're going to race today. We're going to have a great day. It's a little behind, but I'm up for it. I'm ready for this.
The compressed schedule this year, like it or hate it?
Well, I think I like it. We ran so many miles that first week. I was about beat up after running that. We ran about 750 miles in practice. Our G-Force, we just had a little problem getting the Reebok G-Force glued to the racetrack. And now that it's cool temperature, this is kind of what we ordered for race day. So hopefully, hopefully it comes our way.
We talk about the G-Force. That seems to have been the problem with them as compared to the more prevalent Dalaras. Cold weather, Paul Page, could actually make this a little bit better. But for Jerry Punch, I'll tell you what, the G-Force or Dallara, Firestone or Goodyear, it still rests on the shoulders of the drivers as to who goes and gets the sip of milk.
Indeed, Jack, it should be quite a competition. We told you there are two Unsters in today's starting field. Rookie Robbie Unser, the son of Bobby, and this man you're looking at right here, Johnny Unser, making his third start today, the son of Jerry, who lost his life at this racetrack back in 1959. Let's move in here just for a moment while they're talking, getting Johnny strapped in. And Johnny, this May 24th, a very special day for the Unser family.
Yeah, it is. It's been good to us on the 24th, and you know we're gonna try to carry on that tradition and just have a good run.
What have you learned from two previous starts here? What have you learned from the previous runs here as far as the beginning of the race?
Well, I mean, sorry, my radio's going off. It's you know, we just got to get the car sorted out. Let traffic get sorted out a little bit, see where we are, and then start working our way up. 500 miles is a long way, so we need to be there at the end.
Johnny Unser, a teammate today, the 1996 winner, Buddy Lazier, as we check in once again with Jack Arute.
Well, Jerry, you heard Tony Stewart talk about that he'd rather be lucky than good. What has he done? Well, he's taped his lucky $2 bill into the cockpit of his car. But for Tony Stewart, it's just a couple of minutes before we get the green flag. Question, will you lead or follow the second time you come by under green here?
Sit back and watch and enjoy. You know, I'm more worried about leading the last lap, not the first lap. So I'm going to go what I think is comfortable and what I think is taking care of my race car, and I'm not going to worry about what everybody else is doing at the beginning of this thing.
Seems awfully calm to me, Paul.
One of the good pieces of information is that the Pep Boys Indy Racing League now has a command channel that they can talk to all the teams with. First time it's being used at the 500, and it's a day that they truly needed it. Now, as they thread their way down this straightaway at 230 miles an hour, and the straightaway is only 50 feet wide, there are going to be incidents. Tom Sneva was in one of those. Let's take you back to 1975 and the call of Keith Jackson.
Now here we come down with A.J. Ford beginning to move through traffic, and he's running in behind Tom Sneva. Eldon Rasmussen, number 58, is in the yellow car coming around turn number 2. And oh, we've got an axe. Sneva is on the wall. He goes into a terrible slip, and we have a fire. The engine is ripped from the back of the car and comes tumbling across. A.J. Ford was right behind him. He was able to avoid it somehow. But Tom Sneva is in the car. He's moving around. He's trying to get out. An incredible accident on turn number 68, Tom Sneva. There is fire. Sneva can't seem to get out of the car. The fireman is there, spraying it down. Question is there fire in the cockpit? But what a spectacular flip. And the fire suit hopefully will protect young Tom Sneva as he struggles to get out of the car, and Jackie, it appears that he is trapped in that car.
Yeah, he is, but he's got lots of help there. They're obviously dousing the fire. You can't see the alcohol flame, of course, but he looks as if he's okay. He's certainly moving around. I don't think I've ever seen a driver move so easily after such a terrible accident. That's one of the most horrifying crashes I've ever seen. To have a driver come out of that, even moving in the way he is. Now look at the replay of the accident. They go into the turn together. As they go into turn 1 there, you can see they're going even, going into turn 2 even. As they go through there together, somehow they touch. Now you see Sneva in the blue car low down. and he actually goes into what I would call a classic open-wheel racing car action. It climbs over the front wheel of the yellow car, of Rasmussen's car. This is the type of accident that can occur. It seems to me that Tom Snever was in the inside line. Rasmussen stayed parallel with him, but look at that car slam against the wall, burst into flame, the car disintegrating as it goes through. The sweets there, the people very close to the accident, the wheels are coming off, the engine is ripped off completely. What an accident. It looked to me as if these two cars tried to go through turn 2 together. I don't think it was Tom Snever's fault, but I can't honestly say that it was Rasmussen's fault either. The yellow flag is out, but it looks to me as if it was just a standard motor racing accident. They're still getting Tom out. He's standing up, Keith. That's a miracle to me.
Incredible.
What a lucky young man this is. He's walking.
Went to the hospital later that night to see my friend Tom Snever, and the surprising news was he was in fairly good shape. What were you thinking after that?
Well, actually, during it, I was trying to remember what Bobby Allison told me, a teammate that year. He said, in those kind of situations, you need to talk to yourself. Faint, you coward, faint. And it seemed to work that time.
Now, Tom had some just mild burns on your shoulders, and that was because they put the patches on incorrectly.
Well, yeah, actually they sewed the patches to the 3-layer suit and sewed the 3 layers together, so it didn't work quite as efficiently as it should have, and they've learned a lot throughout the years, and that's one of the things.
And they have learned a great deal about safety here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Every year it seems that there is something new. We mentioned the barrier over in the 4th turn on the inside of the wall. That has certainly helped safety at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's a new innovation.
Over the years, efforts have been underway to make these Indy cars more energy absorbing. That's why it seems they explode on impact as the side pods and suspension pieces shear away, thus minimizing the force transferred to the cockpit and ultimately the driver. In 1998, this technology is being applied to the once thought to be immovable concrete walls. Walls here at Indy that for years have been extremely unforgiving. One possible solution may be this reticulated fish scale-like structure of overlapping high-density polyurethane sheets reinforced by plastic cylinders. It debuts today, anchored to an area inside Turn 4 at the entrance to pit road.
We think we've come up with something that is both absorbent, that it will attenuate the energy that a car is imparting on the wall, and that will also provide predictable results when the car leaves the system.
Extensive low-velocity head-on collision tests reveal its ability to reduce the G-force of impacts by over 50%.
When you look to attenuate more energy, you look for outside the car, and I think that's what this wall is going to do for us. It's going to give us just that additional edge that we need to protect the driver by attenuating the crash forces.
If this system works as anticipated, I would look to have it line all 4 walls in the corners at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in 1999. And potentially, if it works as well as hoped, it's something we might be able to make even portable and put on a truck and take with us on the road to other venues where the Pep Boys Indy Racing League participates.
Be nice to see that all around the track, and we do hope that it contributes to safety at the Speedway. Continuing to wait, they say it will not be long, so let's go to Jack Root.
Paul, continuing to talk about safety, do you see these 2 little clear lights there? Well, when a caution comes on, those lights turn yellow and signal the driver that the caution is on the speedway. When they go out, even though the caution may still be displayed on the track, it's a signal, and just a signal to the driver, that the pit road will be open. The dashboard, it tells drivers like Billy Boat everything they need to know about the performance of their Conseco car. Also, on the driver's helmet, a series of plastic tearaways. Why? Well, you're in an open cockpit car, and at 220 miles an hour, it can get a little dirty out there. But Billy Boat, you come from a dirt track background, and you're kind of used to the tearaways, you're kind of used to the dirt and the grime. Are you used to the speeds?
Yeah, I think so. You know, after running 500 miles here last year, it gave me a lot of experience. You know, I think we'll be able to take the Conseco car home all day today.
A lot of people have watched the performance not only of A.J. Foyt's team, but the relationship that has developed between you and A.J.
Yeah, you know, we come from similar backgrounds. We can talk about similar things. We talk the same language, so that's really helped as far as getting the car set up and really just becoming friends.
What did Big Tex tell you about this race, specifically about the start and starting where you are on the pin.
You know, I just said bring it down smooth, and, you know, just try to get through the first corner. It's a long day. We got to be there at the end.
You know, last year when you made the start in the Indy 500, there was a lot of delays. We went actually literally 3 days before we got the race going. Now that you're taking a look at this delay, does it affect you at all? You've just sat here in the car and kind of dialed yourself out from things.
You know, I'm just trying to stay focused, and, you know, rain delays, or I think whenever you run a dirt track on a Saturday night, you get used to rain delays. That's part of it. So, you know, you just got to be ready to jump in and go.
Well, Jerry, he will bring the field down for the 82nd running of the Indy 500.
And Jack, the final guy in the final row outside of row 11 will be 41-year-old Billy Rowe. How appropriate, the last row for Billy Rowe. And he's not tight at all. He's been laughing and joking, talking to some of the crew members here, making his second start. And Billy, I got to ask you here, this race, a lot of responsibility, you being the last guy in the last row. Anything that's going to happen is going to happen in front of you when they start.
Oh, that's for sure. It's a good thing being back here. I was supposed to start up next to Ari according to the speeds, but we're going to put the Napa Auto Parts car. We're starting here 33rd. We're just going to hang back for a couple laps and see what happens. And I'm just looking forward to see what kind of a race car we had so we can just start moving our way through the field.
All those years as a mechanic, you spent years with Emerson Fittipaldi and a number of different drivers here as a mechanic working on these cars. Does that help you driving the race car?
Oh, definitely, because I understand, you know, how the shock works, how wing works, and how the tunnels work, and it just makes it real easy to communicate with the guys, and you know, I know exactly what they're talking about when they want to make a change here and there, and it's really been a benefit.
I'm told you're supposed to be real tense and have your heart pounding and throbbing right now. You're laughing and joking, having a good time. You really enjoy being a part of this festival.
I sure do. Yeah, it's amazing. We're starting 33rd. It's my 33rd Indy 500 with car number 33, so I'm looking forward to a good race, you know, with the ProLink special, and I just want to thank everybody for, you know, helping us get here, and Team Anatech for giving me all the wonderful stuff to make me feel good about it, and I'm just looking forward to a good race.
Billy, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Billy Rowe starting 33rd. Let's check in with Gary Gerald.
Jerry, we're up here at the very head of the grid, and the excitement continues to build, and you're looking at the magnificent Chevrolet Corvette pace car. And why am I excited? Because I'm going to get to ride in one of these 5 cars up here at the head of the field on the parade lap. And what better chauffeur to have than astronaut David Wolf, who's from Indianapolis, born, raised here. You've been around 500s for, what, 30 years
That's right,
now?
Gary. This will be 30 in a row, and I can't wait. It's the greatest spectacle in racing.
Tell me what we can expect now on our lap here, parading around this magnificent speed palace.
That's right. We're going to lead 33 of the finest cars in the world, the greatest machines rivaling the space shuttle, around their parade lap, and then they'll do another couple laps with the real pace car that'll come out in the case that's necessary during the race. And the race will be on. That first lap is something else.
What is this like in comparison to when you're sitting on the launch pad getting ready for the ride of your life?
We know a lot of people have done a lot of work preparing for this race, the 500 Speedway people, the car owners and drivers, and that's just how it is for a space shuttle launch. It's a great team. You feel that team energy building, and it's the greatest moment there can be.
Paul, we're excited down here because we're getting close to being able to blast off ourselves.
I'll bet you are, and I am envious. Crowds in its seat, many of the drivers are already in the cars, anticipating the finish of this race, of course. In the first Indy 500, the race drivers argued that Ray Haroon should not be allowed to race without a riding mechanic to look behind. Well, Ray then installed the first rear-view mirror, and he won. Close and unusual finishes are no strangers at Indy. In 1912, crowd favorite Ralph De Palma led 490 miles. 2 laps from the finish, he broke a piston. Second place was 10 miles behind. As Ralph and his riding mechanic Rupert Jeffkins pushed the heavy car toward the line, Joe Dawson roared past and won. In the 31st 500, the team of rookie Bill Holland and veteran Maury Rose was formidable. Toward the end, Holland was leading. The pit gave an easy signal to both cars. Holland slowed down, Rose did not. Holland thought Rose was a lap behind. Then Rose drove past. Holland waved, thinking he was still the leader. Rose won by 32 seconds. In 61, A.J. Foyt and Eddie Sachs battled for the lead. With 3 laps to go and a 5-second lead, Eddie saw the warning stripe on his tires. He screamed for the pits. The crew was in tears as they changed right-side tires. Foyt took the lead as Eddie came back onto the racetrack. Eddie's tires would have easily gone the distance. Foyt won, and Sachs, one of the most liked drivers ever, would never see victory lane. In '67, Parnelli Jones was the class of the field in his radical turbine-powered car. He led for nearly 450 miles, but a $2 bearing broke in the final 4 laps. His car coasted to a halt. His crew watched in disbelief from the pits. A.J. Foyt drove into the lead, but a 6-car crash blocked his path to victory. A.J. snaked through the carnage to win his 3rd Indy 500. In the 65th running of the race, Bobby Unser pitted under a late yellow flag to take on enough fuel to finish the run. Mario Andretti followed suit. When Unser returned to the track, he passed a number of lap cars, as did Andretti. Unser drove away from Andretti and in the final laps flashed under the checkered flag first. But when the official results came out the next morning, Andretti was declared the winner. Sanctioning USAC had penalized Unser for violating the blend rule. The issue went to appeal. 138 days later, Unser was reinstated as the winner. In '95, Scott Goodyear was the leader under yellow with 11 laps remaining. In his haste to reclaim his first 500-mile win, he dashed past the pace car in turn 4. Goodyear took the green flag restart with a commanding lead, but a lap later, he was given the black flag. Sophomore Jacques Villeneuve inherited the lead and was declared the winner of the 500. In the '97 race, Tony Stewart brushed the wall coming off of turn 4, bringing out the final caution of the day. As the field lumbered down the front stretch, starter Brian Howard waved the green and white flag, signaling the final lap. Arie Luyendyk responded. But the yellow lights around the track remained on. Arie drove on to win ahead of Scott Goodyear and earned his 2nd trip to Victory Circle. Indianapolis certainly has had its special moments. There are the 11 rows of 3 on the main straightaway, and still waiting for the Pep Boys Indy Racing League to tell us when to go. There's Arie Luyendyk from Holland. They call him the Flying Dutchman. He has 2 Indy championships. He also has 3 loves: his family, art, and racing. They say Indy changes a man forever. If it changed Arie Luyendyk, it only served to enhance the character of a gentleman, a family man. On the track, the Flying Dutchman gives no quarter. He is as tough and as fast as they come. He is a great champion. Arie won the fastest 500 ever, turned the single fastest lap, and won 2 editions of the great race. At home, the roar of the racing engine is replaced by the subtle works of Irte or Salvador Dali. In many ways, the great artists are his champions.
There's so much depth into the art because it's what you see is not what you get. You look at it over the years or over the weeks, months, and you see more and more come out of the painting because there's so much hidden in his scenes.
He loves the racing so much. Part of his home is devoted to a racing museum. Arie's racing background began with his father, also a driver. His training came in the traditional European style, so coming to Indy cars and ovals presented quite a change. But Arie soon discovered what we all now know: he was a natural.
To get paid to do something that you really like is always great, but every athlete has to see when it's time to quit, and I don't know, for me, probably 1-2 more years.
Well, the 44-year-old Flying Dutchman's pre-race routine is pretty normal every single week. He has an adjustment in his garage and then takes a very casual stroll out to the grid while munching on some fresh fruit. A moment ago, he climbed in the car, finishing off a cup of cantaloupe, and now sits alone with his thoughts, somewhat meditating, thinking about what could be and what has happened. And Arie, all the experience in the world, this time right now, sitting in the car, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm taking a little bit of a nap, actually, because who knows how long it will take, and really just have to go with the flow and see what happens in turn 1. I can't attack, I can't lay back, I just have to see what happens.
Talking to Skip Fall and Tim Ordrup, they said they may have to gamble somewhat on pit strategy to get you some track position. That means you may have to stay out on some worn tires. Does that concern you at all?
No, the Firestones work really good, and they last longer than a regular stint, so I think we'll be in pretty good shape there. You have to be a little bit lucky with the yellows.
All right, Ari Leindyke starting inside of row 10. He hasn't been a Flying Dutchman much of the month, but on Carburation Day, this car came back to speed. For all you Leindyke fans, don't bet against him today. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, Jerry, in 1958, the man that's talking to the Goodyear tire engineer, A.J. Foyt, made his first appearance at the famed Brickyard. He raced in that race and said to many after that race, with several fatalities, that he had to talk himself to come back. But now as you celebrate your 40th anniversary, AJ, you're as much a part of the place that made you, Indy, as it is part of you.
Well, that's quite true. Indy's what made A.J. Foyt, and Hubman's been so good, and the Georges to me through the years that it's just one of my homes, and I love it. To me, it's the most prestigious race in the world, and this is what made my name and Mario Andretti, Roger Penske, many names are made right here, and people wouldn't even heard of us if it wouldn't have been for Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
And hey, let's correct something. All the papers all month have been saying A.J. Foyt, first pole position as a car owner. That ain't true.
No, that's not quite true, because I was always a car owner, but that's okay.
Car owner, your dad was the chief mechanic. How much has it changed, AJ? Is it as much fun as it was?
Well, when you got two young boys like Billy Boat and Kenny Brackey, that's a lot of fun. You get to work with young guys. Last year, you know, we thought we'd have a good year, and then we had a lot of problems. But I don't know, Indianapolis is a stubborn old racetrack, and I don't think you'll ever figure it out. I don't know one man that ever figured it out. It's just like, who would have thought that Roger Penske, with two Indy winners, would have ever come back here and not qualify? They could have broke me in Vegas. And so it goes to show you never figure this place out.
Well, let's talk about the odds of the Power team and the Conseco team. On the front row, what did you tell your two young Chargers?
I just told both of them that it's 500 miles, 200 laps, and we don't win this race except the last 100 miles. So we're going to just take off, and if we can lead, fine. If we can't, we're just going to set our own pace and go by our own race strategy.
Jerry, when AJ talks, you darn well better listen.
Indeed, I believe that, Jack. Now, over the years, Raul Boesel has had his tough breaks here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and he may have problems today before the race even starts. A moment ago, they had this cover right here off, the shock panel on the front of the tub. Let me go over and ask Dennis McCormick. Dennis, you guys have a problem?
We just found out when we did our radio check with the driver that our radio's dead, so it's either our repeater down or the radio's gone out. They worked fine this morning, so we're sending someone back to the garage to get them ready.
So you hope it's the repeater so you can get it fixed. Otherwise, you're going to use a signboard most of the day.
We're back to the old way of the signboards, and hopefully we can communicate well with them.
Well, it is a place filled with tradition. We might see some markers and some chalkboards out on pit road trying to communicate with Raul Boesel. Paul?
Just like the old days, and that system worked pretty well. There's Buddy Lazier. He starts in the center of the fourth row. He won here in 1996. Let's take you back to that victory and our call. And of course, you heard Buddy Lazier earlier saying he would love to taste the milk in Victory Lane one more time. Well, there is the starting field. They are set and ready. They've cleared the straightaway of all the visitors. Who will drive that pace car? Well, it was a question up in the air for a while, Jack Arute.
Well, his name is Rufus, and I'll tell you what, he goes by a much easier name to remember. Simply Parnelli Jones, one of the best race car drivers. He's strapped in as the drivers are getting strapped in their cars. Parnelli, what's the pace going to be?
Well, actually, we take off running about 55, 65 miles an hour, pick it up a little bit to, on the second lap to about 75, and then on the third lap, we pick it up to 95, so around there, and around 95, 100 miles an hour, and probably accelerate a little more coming into the pits.
Now, when you get behind the wheel of the pace car, how much of it is different than when you were behind the wheel of Agajanian's Roadsters?
Well, I'm sitting a little higher, and it's a lot more comfortable.
Well, Paul, they're getting ready, and as you can see, they've got to wear the safety harnesses as well. We're just moments away from the greatest command in all of motorsports.
So they're all now moving to strap in. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
The oldest rookie in this starting field is 46-year-old Jack Hewitt, a young man who is no stranger to anyone who is a short track fan. He is basically a legend in the Silver Crown midget and sprint car ranks. And Jack Hewitt, you said you waited 25 years to get here. What does it feel like to be able to finally start the Indy 500?
Don Hewitt and Jack Hewitt are getting to start the race. It's the first two-seater we've had here in a long time, and it feels great.
It was his father's dream to be here. When he qualified, he called his mother at home, and they stood and both cried, she at home and he here at Indianapolis. What have the veterans told you about the start, Jack? What have they told you need to do?
I just need to hold my line. They'll work their way around us, and don't try to win it on the first lap. It's got a 200-lap race. They say you can't win it on the first race, on the first lap, but you can lose it.
He said he never thought he would have a chance to get to this racetrack. He said he's driving today for all the drivers he raced with over the years who never got an opportunity to come here. Proof, he says, that Tony George's philosophy is working.
Matter of fact, just making this race is the pinnacle accomplishment for many racing drivers. Well, last month, Mary Holman passed away. She was 93 years old. In her long life, along with her husband Tony, Mary helped guide the Speedway. Mary played golf and shot skeet. She loved sports, but when her husband bought the Speedway in 1945, Mary had her doubts. Still, soon she was caught up in the fun of the Indy 500. Because of her caring personality, Mary was much loved by the racing family. She took over the command to start the engines in 1978. And despite her age and physical pains and ills, Mary came to the track to call the start of the engines until she was 91. She loved this race, and Mary Holman will be missed. Well, there's an idea of what your view would look like if you were seated in the Tower Terrace, and there's the pit area at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. All the fans here now on their feet, well, many of them at least are, because they anticipate, as do we, in less than a minute, we will rejoin the program leading up to the start of the engines. There's been a built-in hold, and now they are getting ready to once again trigger off the last of the ceremonies and run down to the start of the race. There's Menard's guys. Robbie Buell closest to you. Tony Stewart in his car sits on the inside of the second row. So Indianapolis, rain this morning, a delay, but we are ready to start the race, and the forecast itself looks like we might be able to get the entire race in. Remember, it only takes 101 laps, or just over half the distance, to be a complete race. Let's go back to the public address.
Race fans, thank you for your patience. It sounds like you're ready. It's time for that traditional singing of Back Home Again in Indiana. Here's our good friend, Mr. Jim Neighbors. Back home again in Indiana, and it seems that I can see the gleaming candlelight still burning bright through the sycamores for me. The new mown hay sends out its fragrance through the fields I used to roam. When I dream about the moonlight on the Wabash, how I long for my Indiana home.
Jim Neighbors. And the traditional balloons are released behind the control tower.
Yes, all is ready. We've reached that time, certainly an emotional time for all of us. And here to give those famous words to start the 82nd running of this event is the chairman of the board of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Mrs. Mary Holman George.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
There's the command from Mary and the engine.
So all up and down this main straightaway, the 11 rows of 3 begin to start those engines. to discover whether or not, in fact, they will fire despite the delay and the moisture in the air. The Indy Racing League did allow them to warm the engines just about 40 minutes ago. Jerry Punch?
Well, Paul, as the crews begin to migrate back toward their pits, this moment is truly electrifying. Now, keep in mind, the garage area opened at 3 o'clock this morning. These guys got wake-up calls at 2 a.m. They may already be physically and emotionally spent. Right now, they're running on adrenaline. Adrenaline they hope will last 500 miles. Jack?
Jerry, when you get the command to start engines, the pavement actually vibrates with all of the horsepower. The crowd, well, they're only 30 yards away, 400,000 strong. But for the drivers, as they wait for the pace cars to pull away, the butterflies now are very big. They begin to narrow down their focus, look through the shield in their helmet, and try to stare down the long ribbon of pavement that's the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. These cars, methanol powered as they are, can bring tears to your eyes. They're tears of joy, Paul Page, because Indy is about to begin.
So the engines begin to warm here. We'll take a look at the starting field. In that front row, the Texas connection, of course. A.J. Foyt's Houston-based team and Greg Ray of Plano, Texas. In the second row, Tony Stewart, his first Indy 500 that he hasn't been on the front row. In row number 3, Scott Sharp with a new and untested engine as the field now is ready to pull away. In row 4, Scott Goodyear, twice a runner-up, and Buddy Lazier, the 96 winner. The 5th row, there's J.J. Yaley. He's the youngest driver in the field at age 21. The 6th row, veterans from Indiana, Arizona, and Colorado. Row 7, now there's the 6th member of the Unser family to qualify for the Indy 500. 8th row, there are 3 rookies. Row 9 is the fastest rookie in the field. In the center there, Jimmy Kite and Jeff Ward, who finished 3rd in last year's 500 and won Rookie of the Year honors. In the 10th row, the defending champion, Arie Luyendyk. And the 11th and final row at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The field has already begun to move. The fans, they are now very definitely on their feet. There is the alignment of the 11 rows of 3. The safety crews come to the edge of the track and give a final thumbs up and wish these drivers Godspeed and wave them on their way. All nice and tight as the field does begin to pull away. And of course, Parnelli Jones in the driver of the pace car, but this is a little bit further ahead. Gary Gerald, you can see his antennas sticking up there. He's sitting on the passenger side. What has to be the thrill of a lifetime.
Paul, I've been coming to this place for well over 25 years, and trust me, I've had great thrills here at Indianapolis, but nothing compares to this feeling at this moment. Astronaut David Wolf is my wheelman. We're onto the back straightaway in the Corvette. The speed is only 40 miles an hour. We'll soon be up to about 60, and then very shortly, the field will be up to over 200 miles per hour. I wish every motorsports fan could experience this moment. It's just impossible to comprehend. Hundreds of thousands of race fans. It's magic, Paul. It's absolute magic. I'm loving it. I don't want it to end.
Gary Gerald sounds terrific. Give the crowd a wave as they now move down the backstretch. There are 3 laps scheduled before the green flag. Jack Arute?
Well, let's tell you about some of the pit rules. As you come down pit road, you're limited to 100 miles an hour. You saw Davey Hamilton show us the little button he uses to ensure. But then when you see your pit, you pull in. You see the marks here? Well, that's to delineate exactly where you have to stop. Once you've come to rest, the crew comes over. Only 6 guys allowed over the wall. Change 4 tires, add fuel. A vent man also has to jack the car up. Then you're back out and underway. At the end of pit road, you can pick up speed and try and blend back in. Jerry?
When these cars have full fuel cells like they do right now, Jack, they're carrying 245 pounds of methanol on board. All that weight makes the car push entering the corner. The crews can simply adjust the front wing and get the car to stop pushing by turning these. However, as the fuel burns off, the car will get a little bit loose. Too much of an adjustment could be a recipe for disaster. The key word today, balance. Balance will win you the Indy 500. Paul?
So the field continues to circulate on the first of the 3 laps. 2 parade laps and then the pace lap itself. And for the pace lap, they will be pulling off those safety cars and leave the lone pace car. Mark Page, who's the senior VP of store operations for Pep Boys, a white jacket just behind Brian Howard, the starter, he'll give the green flag that sends this field on their way. Boy, what a great thrill that must be as well. Well, the weather here has not been the most pleasant. There is the weather at the moment. Forecast is the key line. Forecast is for cloudy. The stories that we are going to follow as we watch this 82nd running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. AJ boys, Team Menards guys, the former champions Landike and Lazier, those with the rocky road, Sharp, Greg Ray, Eddie Cheever, and those who would never like to see second place again, Scott Goodyear and Roberto Guerrero. In the cockpits, the drivers, final preparations, final communications.
Well, Paul, it's hard to express the electricity in the air at the start of this race. For the fans as well as the drivers, I'll guarantee you that the hair on the back of their necks is standing on end. The adrenaline, Paul, is flowing through these drivers faster than their qualifying speeds. And, Paul, danger persists because many times the drivers don't realize the full strength of that adrenaline flow.
So as the field comes to the completion of the lap and we begin to look now toward the start of the race itself, there they are on the backstretch at the midway point, and this is the second of the 2 parade laps. Now, we're going to let you enjoy this start in the same way that the crowd does here. Nothing to be said on that final lap. It's all been done. It lies with the drivers now. So we're just going to back out of the commentary, and we will wait for the green flag as the entire field starts on that pace lap. 11 rows of 33 drivers. So much is on the line for each and every one of them today. Safety, of course, always a concern. Pace car brings the field off of the 4th and final turn. Billy Boat is the pole sitter. Now we wait for the beginning of the pace lap at Indianapolis. So immediately the yellow comes back on at Indianapolis, and that, Tom Sneva, is what everybody fears.
Well, it really is. There's a lot of emotion at the start of this race, and fortunately he did not hit anything, but it looks like the motor might be dead.
So with Billy Boat as the leader into turn 1 and the pole sitter, the field is already under yellow. It's the 9th time that a first lap crash has occurred in the Indy 500.
They're 3 wide right in front of them there. A lot of traffic. Now somebody got in the brakes a lot sooner than Yaley expected, and he had to slam the brakes on, and you can see the skid marks. I'll guarantee you there's some skid marks inside the cockpit as well. This is...
Here we go on board. This is Jeff Ward. Whoa.
A lot of smoke there for the drivers behind.
One other view. Oh, Yaley.
Right over the top of the camera lens.
Now you're hearing from time to time the two-way communications of... That's the Indy Racing League Race Command channel, and all of the crews monitor that.
You may bump start on you.
And Yaley is back underway. Remarkable. J.J. Yaley spins the first lap, first turn at Indy, saves the car, and gets it started. We'll be back for the restart. Back at Indianapolis, the field is in the north chute. Pace car accelerates. We should be going back to green flag racing. After the incident with J.J. Yaley, several cars came into the pits. Eddie Cheever did, so did Jack Hewitt and Raul Boisel, as well as J.J. Yaley. Here we go. We're racing again. That's Greg Ray, the black car, in second place. Here is Tony Stewart on the charge. He moves into third. His teammate Robbie Buell right with him.
Well, they got a good restart there. Surprised a couple people.
Buell now battles his teammate. No, he drops back. Buell drops back into fourth. For a moment, it looked like he was going to try and come outside of Tony Stewart. Both the pole sitter brings him off the corner onto the long backstretch, 5/8 of a mile long.
You can see them shuffling around. They're all looking for a spot to try to fit in.
Greg Ray darts out looking for any opportunity, on board with Scott Goodyear.
Scott, being one of the veterans, just going to be taking it easy. He's not trying to do a bunch of passing early. He's just trying to get a feel of this race car and fit right in.
That was the A.J. Foyt car of Kenny Breck just ahead of him, the fellow who just started out to the inside of the track. Here comes Goodyear to the inside. We mentioned several cars into the pits, Boisel, Yaley, and Cheever. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Well, Paul, the miseries continue for Brazilian Royal Boisel. He had a fuel pressure problem on the pace lap. He was actually sitting on pit road when the cars come by to take the green flag. They changed the fuel pressure regulator valve, but the car went back out and began sputtering and missing again. He is back on pit road and sits here with the engine cowl off. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
And a report on J.J. Yaley. Jeff Sinden on the radio with him said the rookie just got pinched, went down, and with the spin, as you can see, did not hit the wall. But unfortunately, he got trapped behind the pace car, lost the lap, came in. The crew really wasn't ready. They scrambled to change tires and to top off fuel. Fortunately, under the yellow, they didn't lose any more ground then, Paul.
This is the battle for fifth. The fluorescent-colored car is that of Davey Hamilton, with Scott Goodyear right behind him in that yellow Pennzoil machine.
One person that's missing from that front row is Kenny Breck. He dropped back all the way to about 12th, but he's coming back through the ranks.
Breck now runs up in 8th position behind Sam Schmidt. Front of the field remains the same. There's Boat, followed by Greg Ray. Stewart right on the heels of Greg Ray. And Hamilton still with a charging Scott Goodyear.
Well, Hamilton in the orange car and Goodyear in the yellow car. Both G-forces, Paul, and they're working on each other right now.
And of course, the three cars in the field, the G-Force, the Dallara, and the Riley Scott. The real question is between Dallara and the G-Force. What about Kenny Breck, Jack? He dropped back.
Well, Paul, don't forget, this is the first time he's actually started an Indy 500, although he was in the field last year and crashed during the pace lap. Coming up through the gearbox, Kenny Breck missed a gear, and that's how far back he dropped. They say now he's working his way back to the front.
Looking at the front three. Boat, Ray, Stewart. Battle continues between Hamilton and Goodyear. On board with Stewart, the third-place car.
Well, Tony's just feeling his way along here. He's real happy with this car after carburation day and using his head early.
Stewart falls back a bit. Still on the chase. Robbie Buell has fallen a little further back from his teammate Stewart. Buell sitting in fourth. Crowd still on its feet. Pole sitter Billy Boat, the Conseco car, thunders into the first turn across the south chute. Already he's in turn 2.
The weather conditions today, Paul, were quite a bit different than they were in carburation day and qualifying day. So some of these guys might have been surprised. I mean, the air's got the mentality of a sumo wrestler right now. It's pretty heavy.
Lap 9 is complete. And Billy Boat continues to lead this field. Greg Ray, you see him, is 0.3 of a second back.
Paul, you're talking about the air. I talked to several of the engineers. They said the density of the air will produce less horsepower. Therefore, some of the downforce that you put in these cars, you actually can dial out. You'll have to watch for that during the first pit stop. But the dense air means less horsepower, so it means it's going to be a little tougher to make speed. Tony Stewart and Robbie Buell have already compensated for that by going into 5th gear, and that is their passing gear rather than 6th gear, the overdrive.
And so we're expecting to see other aerodynamic changes when they come in for the first stop in the pits area. And right now, Raul Boisel, you heard his travail. He's been in trouble since before the start of this race. He's climbed out of the car, his helmet off, and Dennis McCormick's driver is with Jerry Punch.
Raul, tough break here. Your day had trouble before you ever rolled off. We noticed you began with a radio problem.
At the start, I thought we had a problem and probably fuel pump or something. So this one of the shortest days I have in racing, probably.
The car just sputtering, would not run at all, or did he shut off?
No, and put the throttle on, the fuel pressure just dropped and the car misfire.
Another tough break here at Indianapolis for the Brazilian Raul Boisel.
Yeah, Jerry, he's had 10 starts, and this is the 5th time he has failed to finish the 500 miles. It tightens up back at the front. The tightest battle remains this one, that fluorescent car of Davey Hamilton, the Reebok car, and the Pennzoil car right behind him. Back in the field. Remember, he started 28th, Arie Luyendyk. You ride on board with Arie right now. He's moved up 4 positions.
Well, I saw his hand in the middle of that corner, Paul, and the in-car. His hand was quite a ways over to the, his right hand was quite a bit to the left, indicating he might have a little bit of understeer in that car right now.
Field is playing it very conservative in these early moments of the Indianapolis 500. You ride with Arie Luyendyk. We'll stay right here.
See those speeds. Again, they qualified quite a bit faster than that.
Back at the front of the field, Greg Ray makes a move and takes the lead of the Indianapolis 500. Greg Ray comes around Boat. Now, is Boat in trouble? He gets high on the corner. Tony Stewart tries to take advantage of it. Buell is closing in. So is Hamilton.
Well, sometimes when you get passed, you got to roll out of the throttle and let the guy go, and that gives the second, third. And there goes Buell behind Tony.
Robbie Buell comes around Tony Stewart. So at first we thought it was Boat in trouble. Then we thought, well, Stewart's going to get him. Now Stewart is passed by his own teammate. And first through 6, they're running right together.
Again, Tony, it's a 500-mile race. Tony obviously was expecting probably to go a little bit farther forward quicker, but Robbie Buell took advantage of a situation and put the number on his teammate.
So with his move and the cross of the line, Greg Ray becomes the 163rd different driver to lead the Indianapolis 500 since 1911. Buzz Calkins has moved from 18th to 12th. We'll return with more of our coverage of the Indianapolis 500 after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Back at Indianapolis, they stuttered on the start, and Billy Boat surged into the lead. Look there. There is Kenny Breck making a move on Robbie Buell, and you will note that that Billy Boat is just ahead of him. So the two teammates battle. While we were away, Tony Stewart was able to get around Boat and into second place behind Greg Ray. Now look at this fight, all lined up for second.
Well, Billy's having some kind of handling problem. He's not as quick as these guys, but he's got them all jacked up behind him. There goes Breck by on the inside, entering 3.
A.J. Foyt keeping track of his team. They run right together. But obviously something wrong with Billy Boat.
And Paul, what's wrong with Billy Boat is the weight jacker inside the car. He's adjusted it, Tom Steva, as far as it can go. They do not like the balance in the car. So what they've begun to do is take a look at all the tires that they've got lined up here behind pit road, try and choose a set that'll give them a little bit better balance. They've been moving those sets back and forth up along the wall here, trying to decide which ones will go on during the first stop. Paul?
Scott Goodyear took a look at Robbie Buell for a moment there on the main stretch, but he couldn't get it done. He's going to take a look again, see if he can get past Robbie Buell. And once again, Buell sweeps into the corner well above the line, but at the same time keeps Scott Goodyear behind him in this ongoing battle now for 5th place. Here's Tony Stewart as he comes up on the leader, and Tony Stewart makes a great move.
Catches him a little bit in traffic. Greg Ray was a little more conservative when he ran up in that slower traffic, and Tony just blasted by.
Boy, what funny performance out of Tony Stewart.
And Paul, Tony Stewart is doing that with a car that's got a severe understeer in the car. So watch Tom Steva. He'll probably compensate for it as he goes through the corners.
Yeah, because he has been so inconsistent, and that's the indication of an ill-handling car.
Well, he actually hasn't been that inconsistent, Paul, but it obviously has some understeer. I didn't notice that on the in-car. We'll watch it as it goes down into the corner. You can see this paw-looking thing in the left front. We got a yellow, Paul. We got a yellow.
Got trouble on the front straightaway, and it's in fact Stewart. Stewart's engine let go.
Unbelievable.
Well,
leading the race, no warning, gone.
And look at the anger in the cockpit. Stewart, fortunately, able to drive it to a stop without causing trouble for anybody. No one got against the wall, including Stewart.
It looked like that steering wheel must have been a little slippery the way it slipped out of his hands, Paul.
Well, Tony Stewart was furious. He threw the steering wheel, still connected to the two-way radio, out of the front of the car, flings down his gloves in anger. Remember, they had concerns about these engines going to qualifying. They had engine trouble. They finally made a decision to back out of their qualifying engines and use one that was detuned a little bit. But in doing that, they said that they were assuring that the race would run well for Team Menard. Now, one half of the team is gone. Tony Stewart waves to his fans.
Sort of an unusual place to pull the thing to a stop. He's down in the groove and he pulls it to the outside. Don't understand that. Maybe we can get some more information on why he stopped it in that position with the blown motor.
I don't think I've ever seen a car pull up high on the track. Seen a lot of them go low, and of course part of that has to be a product of the positioning on the track when he turned into the corner, and the fact that maybe those rear tires did have oil on them, and the car just decided it was going to go up there and park itself, and Tony was just good enough to get it stopped before it parked itself against the wall.
Well, pretty frustrated Tony Stewart right now. Just unbelievable. He's shaking his head. He can't understand what could have happened. But like we talked about, they were concerned about their qualifying motors. They were happy with the race motors, but they're not real happy right now.
You saw the X on the flag moments ago that tells you that the pits are still closed. There it is again. The sign is no pit. But as the field comes around, we expect stops, Jack.
Well, let's talk to Larry Curry. Did Tony tell you anything?
No, we had no warning. We was sitting there running the race that we wanted to run. We wanted to sit and run in traffic. He knew what he had. He said, I know enough about this now. He went up, set him up in traffic, took the lead, and then all of a sudden, bang. So no warning on telemetry, nothing.
A litany of engine problems for this team throughout the year, throughout the month. You thought it was limited to your qualifying effort. Now what do you think?
Yeah, well, you know, got another car over here in the race with Robbie Buell, and so we're going to be nervous for a lot more laps now.
Gary Gerald.
Jack, we're waiting along with Greg Ray's team. He has taken the lead for the first time in the Indy 500. They await him on pit road, and here he is, number 97, The crew was telling each other, be calm, be efficient now. Let's see what their first test looks like today if they pass with flying colors. They're very deliberate on the front wheels. Very deliberate. They're under the yellow, of course, which helps them now off the jacks, but that's about a 17-second stop, not blistering fast, but they did get everything done efficiently. A quick note on Buddy Lazier. The yellow came about 3 laps too late. He had a major handling problem, so bad, in fact, that they called him to the pits for a new set of tires and a wing change. Jerry?
And a major problem for Jeff Ward, who had come from 27th to 13th spot in just 22 laps. They had a routine pit stop, but as he's leaving pit road, he turned out and in was turning Stefan Gregoire, and suddenly the right front wing has been clipped off the car number 35. What a tough break for the Tabasco driver after a great run here at the beginning. Let's go back to Jackaroo.
Well, Jerry Punch, A.J. Foyt is livid. The pit stop by Billy Boat was an abomination. What happened is they came in, made the change of 4 tires, adjusted on the wing. A.J. Foyt said on the radio, go, 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 and was overruled by one of the crew members. Billy, concerned, didn't know what to do. He waited, paused for 3 seconds, and it was a costly 3 seconds.
Well, discipline and precision are what you want in a pit stop at Indianapolis as we continue to watch the work on Jeff Ward's car. But A.J. Foyt's team and A.J.'s guys certainly did not have that. Here's what got the Jeff Ward car into trouble.
Again, he got the signal from the pit guy to leave, but he didn't catch in the mirror. He didn't catch Gregoire coming into his pit stall, and contact was made.
So, in regard to the Team Menard guys, there's only one left. In regards to AJ's boys, some confusion on the stop, but they're still very much in the fight with Kenny Breck, who started outside the front row in second place behind the pace car. Greg Ray is the leader of the race. He inherited that position when Tony Stewart's engine blew on the front stretch, and that brought out this yellow. Now, we're going to go back and take a look at that situation when Stewart's engine let go, and we're just going to listen to it. Boy, the worst sound you can hear, and then silence.
Well, the silence came pretty quick. It mixed it up a little bit. You can see the smoke coming out of the back of it, so he's done for the day.
So the rest of the field gathered up behind the Chevrolet Corvette pace car now. And there's Tony Stewart. He had to put his helmet on so they could tow the car back to the inside of the track. That's one of the rules. When they come past this time, 24 laps complete, we will be ready to go back to the green flag once again. Actually, that pit stop came at a very opportune time.
Well, it did for some of them. Obviously, it didn't for Lazier, but we saw Ray had a very conservative pit stop. It was a little bit longer than some, but it's really an advantage when you come in first. You don't have to be the quickest in the pits, but you can still get out leading the race.
Jackaroo.
Well, you can see Tony Stewart with his back turned to the pit area. The disappointment you can see on his face. No warning.
Nah, I wouldn't even run the car hard. I mean, if I was pushing it, I can understand it maybe, but just out there kind of riding around, trying to take it easy.
The emotions right now for Tony Stewart. Describe them.
Well, I mean, this is the only thing I've ever wanted to do in my life. This has been my #1 goal, and every year I get shit on doing it. So, I mean, how would you feel?
Paul?
And there, of course, in many ways is the dream of Tony George and the Pep Boys Indy Racing League to bring guys like Tony Stewart to this, the greatest spectacle in racing. Ari Lyondike comes in.
It sounded like a smelly ending for Tony's day.
Yeah, but it will only serve to stoke his fires, I suspect. Lyondike into the pits. And obviously,
having trouble
not
getting it in gear.
There's some trouble there. The car stalls. They bring it back.
It feels like some kind of clutch problem. He was trying to get it again, couldn't find it. When it did pop in, it just stopped the motor.
And now they try to get it rolling again. And in fact, this time,
he's pumping the throttle,
and
trying
he
to
can't
catch
get it going again. So Ari Lyondike, the defending champion, is in trouble. His month of May has been nothing but trouble. That means that Greg Ray, Kenny Breck, Davey Hamilton, and Scott Goodyear will be the top 4 as we're ready to come back to the green flag. Jack Arute?
Well, they've taken the off-board starter. You can hear the noises now as the motor's refired. He tries to find a gear. So far, he hasn't. He pulls away. It's obvious that he's lost one of the high gears, Paul.
So Arie Luyendyk will roar back into the first turn as the green flag comes out. We run again at Indianapolis.
A lot of mixing up. Look at the back of the field there, Paul. A lot of mixing it up. People are looking for places to go around.
The car that actually was in front as they came down the straightaway is Buddy Lazier. He's still in front, but he is a lap behind the run. Second car in that line is Ray. Scott Goodyear suddenly into the pits. And this doesn't look good either because they immediately went to their pockets for the tools to pull the cowling.
A lot of top contenders having serious problems early in this race.
Jack Arute just reports first gear is gone. It's the problem with Arie Luyendyk. Buddy Lazier, despite the fact he's a lap down, looking strong, sitting in front of the leader. Then the leader got him coming off the corner, or doesn't have him yet. He will get them, I would assume, off of this corner, except Lazier seems to be running at a race pace.
Paul, the problem with Scott Goodyear seems to be a faulty clutch. As you watch Scott Goodyear in the box, and they're going to have to take a look at it, the crew working towards the rear. If it's a faulty clutch, it could be an early day for Scott Goodyear.
Well, Arie Luyendyk and then Buddy Lazier. So 2 former winners, the only 2 in the race, are running in front of the actual leader of the race, Greg Ray.
Well, Luyendyk had the trouble in the pits. He got out just in front of the leaders. The question is, can he hold off Ray until we have a yellow to give him that opportunity to get that lap back?
Yeah, there's the real key. Both of them are trying to keep from being passed and lapped, and Arie Luyendyk, of course, is trying to stay on the leader lap. Greg Ray, the 3rd car in the line, that red helmet. Looking back in the line, Robbie Buell. He's that blue car.
And Paul, the report on Robbie Buell is he likes the way his car is handling in the corners. He does not like the way the car is speeding down the straightaways. He said, I can run with the leaders in the turns, but they eat my lunch down the straightaway.
So Robbie Buell, the blue car, pulls up on Davey Hamilton. He's that fluorescent orange car.
Well, Buell in the blue car, he might be happy that his motor isn't running that well down the straightaways. It might make it last a little bit longer.
From time to time, you get a glimpse of Kenny Breck, 2nd place, just ahead of them, so it's fairly tight. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th right now. Greg Ray leads the Indianapolis 500. 30 laps complete. We've had 2 yellows to this point, and we've changed the lead 3 times among 3 different leaders. And already Tony Stewart, the hope of Team Menard, is out of the race with a blown engine. It has been a most interesting early going for the Indy 500.
And Paul, add problems for the other Team Menard driver. The latest report on Robbie Buell's car, problems with a water hose. We'll keep abreast of it.
Well, Robbie Buell, problems with a water hose. That could be something serious. In fact, if a water hose would let go and flood the cockpit with hot boiling water from the cooling system, it could be a very serious situation. We'll keep track of that, of course. Here are your leaders at Indy, the 82nd run. Ray suddenly pulled to the inside of the backstretch.
70 miles an hour at turn 3. Okay, no need to panic. We know what the problem is. Let's get it in here. We'll have a look.
He indicated the motor's running, but he doesn't have any gears.
So Greg Ray suddenly, and without any warning whatsoever, darted off at turn 2 down to the inside. Now he's simply trying to motor it back to the pits, but as Tom Stevens suggested, he said the motor's running, but you just can't get any speed out of the car. That means that Kenny Breck has assumed the lead.
Paul, in the Greg Ray pit, they're saying it's transmission related, so it may be a long drive back to the pits. Transmission problem.
Exactly as Tom Stevens suggested. So Kenny Breck picks up the lead of the race with Robbie Buell in 2nd place. That's Breck right there. And now we have the battle between A.J. Foyt's team and John Menard's team.
Oh, we're we're seeing a lot of gearbox transmission problems here early in the race. Look at this.
Another car with a serious engine problem. The yellow comes out on this one as Donnie Beechler finds himself in serious engine trouble.
These motor problems throughout the month, Paul, they've been talking about oil filters and the bottom ends of these things going bad. They're losing the 7th and 8th rod.
Let's go to Jack.
Well, Scott Goodyear, you wanted to finish 500 miles. You didn't get anywhere near close. Are you surprised by the number of mechanical problems that are befalling this 33-car field?
I don't know what's going on much out there today with everybody else, but I can only say that the car felt great. We got a good start. The guys did a great job in the first pit stop and went to leave the pits, and the car didn't have any drive. So there's something in the clutch, but, you know, we struggled for speed with this G-Force chassis in qualifying, but I knew it was a good race car. I knew it was a good race car. I knew that today was going to be a good day. The car was working well, sitting back there watching those guys, and we were coasting. 6th gear, great fuel mileage.
How about track conditions? How are they?
Things were a little green there. The car's sliding around a lot right now in traffic, or even side by side with somebody, but that's fine. The car was fine. It's just that it's a short day.
Paul?
So with Scott Goodyear out, the yellow on, Ari Lyondike and Buddy Lazier make up their lap and are back on the leader lap. 35 laps complete at Indianapolis. Here's some good moves since the start of the race. Knapp from 23rd to 8th, Billy Rowe 33rd to 18th, and Stan Waddles from 29th to 15th. Here's Jerry Punch.
Chris Paulson is running the pit today for Donnie Beechler, who was having a great beginning, but Chris, it's all gone away. What happened?
Well, he blew a motor over there between 1 and 2, and it's a shame. The kid was really doing a hell of a job. He was moving forward. You know, he started 24th, and he's new at this, and this crew is relatively inexperienced, and had a great pit stop, and the car was going forward. We were happy.
All right, let's go to Gary Jarrell.
And for the tough luck man, Greg Ray, he sets and hopes that somehow his crew will be able to repair. They lost all drive to the transmission, so they're checking out the linkage now. He's already lost, of course, a tremendous amount of time. Jack?
Gary, here's the problem with Robbie Buell. It's an escalating water temperature problem. So what they've done is they've told Robbie Buell, back off, get as much fresh air into the car as you can. During the next pit stop, they'll try and free up the radiator area and hope they can control an escalating temperature with their water. Paul?
Robbie Buell, that blue car, the Johns Manville machine, in 2nd place behind the leader, Kenny Breck. Billy Boat, who led the first 12 laps, restarted 11th due to that problem in AJ's pits, but then climbed back up to 6th place, then came into the pits again just a lap ago.
Well, Buell's heating problem, you know, when you have 400,000 or 500,000 people out here, there's debris out there, and things get in that radiator opening, and it can cause the problem to heat.
Usually the fans are very careful about their debris. In fact, they're reminded by the public address announcers rather constantly. Next on ABC Sports, the JCPenney LPGA. Tire wear always a concern.
Well, Paul, so far there is a deep concern from the Goodyear drivers as to the right rear. When Billy Boat came in, he had burned the right rear. That word circulated to other Goodyear drivers like Dismore and Sharp, and they've been cautioned to keep back just a little bit, not to run too hard, because they're concerned as to whether the Goodyear right rear can go the distance between fuel stops. Gary?
Jack, about 10 minutes ago, Raul Boisel walked forlornly down pit road all the way back to Gasoline Alley. Within the last 60 seconds, he climbed back into his race car. They pushed him into the slop Gasoline Alley, fired him up, and he's back on the track. Jerry?
Well, give a call to 30-year-old rookie driver Steve Knapp, who started 23rd, and a moment ago, just prior to the yellow coming back out, he had gone all the way to 6th position on the field. In fact, they had to slow him down somewhat. He was so excited after the pit stop. He said, guys, no changes. The car is perfect. We maybe could win this thing. Paul, it's been a while since a rookie has won at Indianapolis.
Yeah, Graham Hill, the last rookie to win the Indianapolis 500, the mid-60s. Steve Knapp out of the Formula Ford ranks, and he's had an interesting week in the practice and the shortened format here, which seems to have been received well by everyone who participated, fans and competitors alike. Shortened from 13 days of practice down to 6, and 2 weekends of time trials down to 1. It made for some action-packed time under beautiful skies at the Speedway. Well, they're not so beautiful at this moment. They are overcast, but still rain is not part of the situation. We go green again.
Inside Sharp's car right here, inside Scott Sharp's car.
Sharp sits in 4th place. Kenny Breck led them back.
Kenny got a little bit of a jump on the guys behind him, and some of these guys, Sharp, these guys got a little bit of a run, but they're not forcing the issue yet.
Hamilton got a good move on Buell. Buell now sits back in 3rd place.
Here comes Scott on the inside on the yellow car.
Oh, Scott Sharp very easily around Robbie Buell. Buell comes up high.
He came up high, and Schmidt had a run on Buell, but he just quite couldn't get there through the short chute.
That yellow and red car is Sam Schmidt, and he is there right now. Right behind him is Eddie Cheever, who has a great run going.
This is looking out the back of Scott Sharp's car.
And Cheever comes around Sam Schmidt.
They got stacked up a little bit and gave Eddie a chance to get a run on those guys, and he made a good move and used it to his advantage.
At the front, it remains Breck. Got a glimpse of Buzz Calkins trying to make a move down to the inside.
Good stuff here, 2, 3, 4 wide.
Paul, a quick update on Scott Sharp. Remember, on the final practice on Thursday, motor problems the first couple of laps out, never got the speed. By the time they replaced the engine, final practice was over. Next morning, took the car to Indianapolis Raceway Park, reached speeds of 150 miles per hour on the straightaway on a 5/8 mile oval. Made sure everything was working. They've got to be smiling now at this great run that puts him in the top 3.
Terrific battle back here. In fact, it's tight all around the course right now. Sam Schmidt, Steve Knapp right behind him.
Again, this Knapp's come from way back, doing a great job so far.
Look at this, 3 wide as they head into 1.
Stan Waddle's in that black and yellow car.
Stan on his first pit stop in the 19 Metro car. They had a miscue coming out of the pits and had to jump for the starter and get it started, but the crew was right there ready to go and got him back out rather efficiently considering the problem.
Look at all these cars bunched up together, Paul. This is what racing is all about.
Indianapolis 500, the 82nd running. They're all grouped right together. The leader is Kenny Breck. There you see him. That's Davey Hamilton in 2nd place on the right side of the screen. So the battle is back at the front. There's the numbers on Breck.
The numbers really don't tell everything. He really dropped back at the beginning. That graphic really didn't show that, but he's done a tremendous job coming back through the field.
Started on the outside of the front row. His 2nd year, but as we mentioned, Breck last year was involved in an accident before the green flag came out. So this was really his start, and I think that's probably a pretty good move for him to hang back there.
Yeah, a lot of these guys have used their head tremendously. It's surprising because we've got a lot of inexperienced people here.
There's Eddie Cheever as he makes a move now to the inside. And Cheever
underneath Sharp
gets around Sharp, now moves into 3rd place.
So Eddie's not wasting any time going to the front of this thing.
You know what's getting me, though, Tom, is that some of these moves are happening so quickly. They sit and sit and sit, and then suddenly you see the move come.
Well, they have to, they get that run. They got to stay tucked behind the guy to make the draft work so effectively for them. So they stay behind as long as they can, and then they dart out and try to get underneath them as they enter the corner.
Breck, Hamilton, Cheever, the front 3. And that's tightening up. Breck leads them into 3. We've already gone past the first of the 500 miles. Cross that line at lap 40.
Well, not surprising. Billy Boat, Breck's teammate, is having some handling problems. They didn't guess really that close on the handling, and maybe that's what's sneaking up on Breck. Good race here. Here comes Cheever.
Cheever goes for 2nd place around Hamilton, and Eddie Cheever into 2nd in turn 1. Now gives chase to Kenny Breck, the leader, across the South Chute. Yellow comes on. Yellow comes on, and the indication is it's for a toe-in. So just as Eddie Cheever was all cocked and ready to get past the... Oh, and look who it is. Robbie Buell. Robbie Buell is the reason for the yellow and for the toe-in. This is the second car in the Team Menard stable. The first belonged to Tony Stewart. It was out with a blown engine in turn 1. Larry Curry looks on, wondering what has happened to their second car. We'll be back. On the main straightaway at Indianapolis, under the caution, many of the cars making their stops. And the view, of course, comes from the Goodyear blimp Stars and Stripes. It's piloted by Captain Larry Chambers. Jackaroo?
Well, Paul, it's confirmed. Robbie Buell blew an engine. He has been pulled back to his pit area. It's an early day. The only thing he said on the radio is, it's a shame we had a great race car.
So we've had some incidents in the early going at the Indy 500. The first 100 miles on the start, J.J. Yaley got sideways. He may have tapped Eddie Cheever, who may have also gotten sideways in that situation. And then on the 21st lap, Tony Stewart had an engine let go. He pulled it to a stop on the outside of turn 1. 33rd lap, here's Donnie Beechler, another engine. So those are some of the incidents that we have seen in the early going of the Indy 500. Gary Gerald?
Quick update on Scott Sharp with David Cribbs. David, we saw all kinds of changes, not only tires and fuel, wing adjustment up front, wicker bill change as well. Is it handling that badly?
No, but we're finding the car's not handling too bad, but as it's going on through the run, it's tending to go off on us a little bit. We're losing overall grip. And what's happening is because there's a green track, you know, it's being a little more abrasive on our tires. But we think on this run we'll be a lot stronger.
Okay, that's the word on Scott Sharp as we ride with him.
Yeah, David Cribbs helped managing that team for Scott Sharp. And you can see fresh tires, the sticker's still on. Same with Steve Knapp. At least the right front, they put a fresh tire on that has not been run in.
Well, I'm thinking they probably put a full set around. I don't think they just put one tire on, because that might surprise him getting into the first hot corner.
So behind the Corvette pace car, the field is ready to come back to the green flag. And Buzz Calkins will be the leader. He's third in that row. Jack?
Well, Robbie Buell, an early day, you said it. You had a good race car. What about the track?
Track's good. Race car was great. We had a race car. I mean, we were just biding our time out there, which is too bad.
Try to tell people about the disappointment.
I mean, I'm really disappointed. Just you just don't understand how hard these guys work. I mean, they've changed a bunch of motors this month, and I feel bad for them because you know, we've been together now for 2 years. We've been waiting for this moment right now today, so it's too bad.
Well, Paul, he's out, but there's still a bunch of them out there waiting for the green.
Yeah, but following one of our stories, Team Menard's guys are out. Buzz Calkins is the leader of the race as they come back to the green flag. He's actually third in that line. Buddy Lazier right behind him is in second place, and Kenny Breck is in third place. Now that's owing primarily to the nature of the pit stops.
Well, Buddy Lazier had a tremendous break here with the yellows and stuff. He missed that first yellow just by a little, had to pit under the green, and now as we cycled through these things...
Billy Boat, he's slow on the front stretch. The pole sitter slow on the front stretch. And no indication at all as to why. Just a sudden slowing.
He's got the sticker tires on, so obviously he can't get it up to speed for some reason. Might be that gearbox.
Tom, the reason is because he has nothing left in the gearbox. Another gearbox failure.
Oh, crash.
And a car into the wall. Another car comes through the debris and catches the wall nearly head on. So now we have a serious incident at Indianapolis. And the yellow comes on. 49 laps are complete. Arie Luyendyk just tries to motor through the situation.
Well, he's down on the warm-up lane or the pit exit trying to get by things.
In turn 1 is this situation. That's Mark Dismore's car right there with the back into the wall. Looks like Johnny Unser down on the pit road. But I'll tell you what we're going to do. There's quite a bit of debris and the cars are in different shapes, so we're just going to kind of lay back here. Roberto Guerrero, that would be one of the cars. Stan Waddles is the man who has climbed out in the yellow and black. And now Roberto Guerrero comes up out of the cockpit, and Mark Dismore is in fact putting his steering wheel out on the front of the car. So for these three at least, and look at Roberto saying, what happened? Well, maybe we can figure all of that out. Multi-car incident in turn 1.
Well, heavy traffic, 3-4 cars side by side. Oh, yeah, down on the inside, they get sideways. The two guys trying to go on their outside. And then the last guy in, he had to run over debris or got down on the grass and the car didn't turn at all. And he went real close to 90 degrees in. Yellow car's backed in early. It's really hard to tell how they got started, but look at that, come in late.
And that is Sam Schmidt, the yellow car that came into the wall. And we're going to try to identify each of these very carefully for you. Tom?
Schmidt down low on the inside. The yellow car up here is Sam Schmidt. And he looks like he does get a tire maybe into the grass. The car just jumps sideways, actually, as he pulled it off the grass. Now, Sam's going backwards. These guys are just looking for evasive maneuvers. They jump on the binders, trying to avoid the situation and no place to go.
Eddie Cheever actually comes through that without trouble as Dismore spins behind. Look down, coming across the grass.
Well, the last guy in gets the wing of Sam Schmidt's car. The wing was way high in the air. It came down right in front of him, had nowhere to go, and hit the wall awfully hard.
Of course, we are hesitating on the identification of that car. It's not clear from where we saw it. And until we get an official identification, because of the nature of the way the car got that wall, we want to be very careful about that. Stats crew is working on that even as we speak. And the safety team from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with the Jaws of Life are down there right now. Sam Schmidt's broken race car. In fact, we queried race control, and they do not yet have an identity on that. Of course, the focus of everyone is to make sure that the drivers are all right, and those who may not be are properly rescued.
Well, there's not much left of Sam's car. Unfortunately, Sam's out of it, so it appears that he's all right.
So the situation is yellow at Indianapolis after 50 laps. So 1/4 of the race is complete. There is debris all up and down the short chute out of turn 1. We'll return with more of our coverage after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Back at Indianapolis, we are under the yellow flag for a fairly serious accident. Buddy Lazier is the leader with Ken Breck and Davey Hamilton following him, but they are all behind the pace car. Here's what set off this yellow flag.
Again, Sam Schmidt on the inside gets down maybe on the grass. It's enough to get the car sideways. He's lost control. Now everybody else is throwing the binders on, trying to find a way around. Now Guthrie comes in here very late. You can see the wing right there coming down right in front of Guthrie, right on top of him. Nothing to do. He just almost head on into the wall. Real tough contact.
We had not yet identified that white car. That is now identified as Jim Guthrie, and they are still working with him. He's awake, but he is hurt. Jerry Punch?
Well, I'm with Mike McGuire, who is Jim Guthrie's crew chief. And Mike, first of all, do you have any idea from watching what you saw on the monitors what may have happened up there?
Well, it looked to me like he was caught up in an accident in front of him. Looked like he had no room to go on the track, and he went into the wall in the nose of the car.
A moment ago, you were consoling Missy Guthrie, Jim's wife. What were you telling her? You've gotten some reports, right?
I've got some reports from one of the other spotters that they saw movement with him. They did take him out on a stretcher.
All right, we'll wait for further updates on Jim Guthrie back from the medical center. Paul?
Well, he will be going to the medical center here, which is one of the finest that there exists in racing. And Dr. Henry Bach and his crew will do their best. We'll be back. We are back at Indianapolis and still under the caution. A 6-car incident set it off. Next Saturday here on ABC Sports at 1:30 Eastern, 3 Pacific, United States versus Scotland. Soccer. Both teams World Cup qualifiers. It's the last warm-up game for the USA before the World Cup begins. So we've had a 6-car incident identified as involved Sam Schmidt, Mark Dismore, Roberto Guerrero, Jim Guthrie, Stan Waddles, and Billy Rowe. I think we have said that one of the cars appeared to be very much like Johnny Unser's. That is not true. That was Billy Rowe's car. Jack Arute?
And Paul, just before that incident, we were reporting to you the condition of pole sitter Billy Boat's car. Well, the problem is that first they didn't have any gear, but then it's stuck in second gear. We're showing you the spare gearbox that A.J. Foyt team has. That's the rear end attenuator for crashes. But up here is where the gearbox is actually attached to the engine. But right in here in this aluminum casing around the side here, that's where the gears first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth are. And right now, Billy Boats is stuck in second gear. And Gary, you can't run this race with only second gear.
Well, a guy who's out there now after changing an entire stack of gears is Greg Ray. Started, of course, in the middle of the front row, led the race early. He had the problems. It was the final drive gear that ended up being broken. Removed the rear wing, disassembled the entire gearbox, got a fresh stack back in there. He's finally back out on track, listed currently in 29th position, but my, oh my, what an effort by this crew.
Great work, as a matter of fact. So it will be Buddy Lazier, who has not made a pit stop, who will lead the field when we come back. Average speed thus far at 128.8 miles an hour, owing to the yellow, though they've run laps up at 214 miles an hour. And those being listed out of the race after 54 laps, including Team Menard. Official condition report on Jim Guthrie. The indication was there was injury, but it was not life-threatening. And, of course, Jerry Punch back near the Track Emergency Center, and as soon as they have information available, we will most certainly pass it to you. Now, the rookies, there were 8 of them who started this race, all of them focusing on that, the Borg-Warner Trophy, the symbol of the Indianapolis 500 champion. And Robbie Unser is the highest-ranked rookie at the moment, up in 9th place. Andy Mitchner in 11th, Steve Knapp, who had a great run as well. There they are. Those are the rookies, 6 of them still in the field. And leader Lazier in 5th place Lyondike. Remember, they were 2.5 miles behind just 30 laps ago. We'll return with more of the Indy 500 after this message and a word from our ABC station. Back at Indianapolis, the yellow light is still on. Here are some of the stories we started at the beginning of the race. AJ's boys, Billy Boat, the pole sitter, hasn't had a good day. Breck Six back in second. Team Menard's guys, well, they're out of there. Former champions, they know how to do it. Lyondike and Lazier, 5th and 1st. The Rocky Road, well, Scott Sharp is having a pretty good day. Greg Ray is not. Eddie Cheever also moving very well up to 3rd. And those guys that never wanted to finish 2nd place again, Goodyear and Guerrero, well, they won't. They're out already. Jack?
Well, let's update you with a new rule that the Pep Boys Indy Racing League has instituted. Teams are allowed to go back to Gasoline Alley and make changes on their cars. That's the case with Billy Boat, your pole sitter. They've replaced the gearbox. Now, his teammate, Kenny Breck, who currently is posted in 2nd, has radioed in that he has a problem, he thinks, with his rear tire. He says, I think the tire's going down. But as you look at Tommy Lamance, there are sender units on each of the tires that gauge the pressure. And on the screen is the pressure readout from that sending unit. It says that he has full pressure in that questionable tire. Paul?
Well, Kenny Breck, we'll keep an eye on him. So, Tom Sneva, when you have a situation like this and everybody's had to drive through it, what does the driver have to do to get back in the game?
Well, not much to get back in the game. He's just got to make sure his car is underneath him, and he hasn't had any damage based on that debris. The report by Jack, though, was excellent. I mean, the fact that these guys have a sensor situation where they can sense air pressure in each one of these tires is a big, big safety advantage for these drivers. I mean, this is something that all drivers wish they had on board their car, because they can get a lot of help from the pit and that technology.
So Kenny Breck sits back as the field is now beginning to bottle up just a bit. Breck, you see him there in 2nd place behind Buddy Lazier. And those are your top 10 as we are getting closer and closer to going to a green flag condition. 59 laps are complete at the Indy 500. Well, back at Indianapolis, Plano, Texas, don't worry. Greg Ray is still in this 500, 18 laps behind the lead in 29th place, but he is on the course and running. Gary Gerald is the leader. Buddy Lazier is on the pit road all of a sudden. So the story on Lazier suddenly, and the crew, not sure they were totally ready. Tom Sneva, well, they got all the tires out. Well, they got them out in time.
Yeah, I think they were trying to stretch this as long as they could to get in a pit window that works for the rest of this race. So it's a real good calculation by the Lazier team.
Well, what an interesting strategy they're beginning to play. Ron Hemmelgarn and the gang. And by the way, Danny Drynan tried to qualify for the race, is reported as going to go to that pit and help them on the team management. He certainly knows how to do it. Gary?
Mark Dismore has been released from the medical center. Mark, from your seat, was there any option available to you at all, or was it purely just hang on and hope?
Well, Gary, first of all, I want to thank the people that made it possible for me to be out there, and that's Valvoline and Goodyear and Delphi and Futaba and MCI. Those are the people that made it possible for me to be in this race, and I got to get that out of the way, and I just want to say thank you to all those people. You know, I mean, the track was coming to us, and the guys did a fantastic job on the pit stops, and we gained positions, and we worked on the car, and we had what was becoming a really good race car. And on the restart, I got a good restart, and I think I got around a couple of guys high in two, and we went down the back straightaway. We started running into a bottleneck, and I started rolling off the throttle, and I think just some guys got rambunctious, and there just was nothing available to get rambunctious about, and it's kind of like a drive-by shooting for me.
Mark, we've got to get to those other guys before we go green. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Jerry Punch.
Well, Gary, Sam Smith, Billy Rowe, and Stan Waddles have walked out of the hospital. The good news is that they're okay. Let me ask you, Sam, first, what happened out there?
Well, it's just real disappointing. I mean, we had a pretty good run going in that back stretch and got around a few guys, and it just going into 3, I thought Davey saw me. I thought we were going to go through side by side in the last minute. He just took his line, which is his right, and I, just stood on the brakes, and it just all broke loose after that.
Billy, what was your involvement?
Well, I saw the whole thing coming. I got slowed way down, and I never seen so much carnage on the racetrack, and I had to go through the grass, and I thought I was just fine. Then all of a sudden I found myself backwards, so we're going to have to run down to the Napa Auto Parts store and get some parts, and we'll fix it for Texas.
Stan Waddles, you were a victim as well.
Yeah, we were going through 3 side by side with Roberto Guerrero, and watching him, and Mark Dismore left out of it right in front of me for this incident, and there was nowhere I could go, and I hit the back of Mark, and we wound up all spinning together up into the wall. It's a real shame. Glad everybody's okay, though, and Riley and Scott, Goodyear car is just, that's a winner. That car was going to the front. I can't believe it. It was a great run.
Gary, 4 of the 5 drivers are out. We're told Jim Guthrie has been taken to Methodist Hospital. We'll have an update from Dr. Bach in just a moment.
And with Roberto Guerrero and Roberto quickly, your crew's still working hard on this car. Are you hoping to get back on the track?
Yeah, it was kind of funny because when I touched the wall, I just unbuckled myself, get out, because I felt I hit pretty hard. And then when I got out and looked at the car, I said, there's nothing wrong with the car. So I got them to tow me back. But then when they look at it, all the right-hand wishbones were bent. So they're changing it, and they're doing a good job, and we'll go back out there and try and do a few more laps.
We're about to go green. Thanks, Roberto.
Thank you, Gary.
So something we haven't seen at the Speedway. The car is being worked on back in the garage area, but it's a great move for safety by the Pep Boys Indy Racing League.
Well, you can see the cars just aren't, a 230-mile-an-hour race car is not made to run into things, and Guerrero didn't get away with that light brush in that incident.
There's the way they will come back to the green flag. In fact, they are in that order. And note that John Paul Jr. in the 81 car, who has won the Michigan 500, is up in 5th place now. We're green again. Cheever moves to his right. Oh, look at Breck. The back end washes out a little bit as he changes gears. Into turn 1, Cheever looking for Breck. That's Scott Sharp, 3rd place.
We saw Davey Hamilton, the orange car, looking for spots to get around people there on that restart.
4th car in that line is Ari Lyondike. Remember, he and Lazier fell well behind. Now Lyondike falls a little further backwards. He's challenged by Hamilton. And Hamilton gets around. That's the oil dry they put down on the track for the incident. That's not a problem. The incident, of course, up in the north end.
Well, it still can be a problem if it's that heavy. They've got to be a little soft pedaling when it goes through there the first couple times, so they know what to expect.
I haven't thought of that. We in fact say it's not a problem because it doesn't involve an incident, but it certainly can involve a problem for the second guy on the line. Let's go back down to the medical center area and Jerry Punch.
Dr. Henry Bach, medical director for the Indy Racing League. Dr. Bach, what's the status of Jim Guthrie?
Jim Guthrie's on his way to the Methodist Trauma Center. He was awake and alert and stable when he left here. He complained of some pain in his right arm and a little bit of left leg pain, so we're going to send him down there for further evaluation.
Well, that is certainly great news. You've talked to the other drivers, and considering that impact, Paul, we are very, very fortunate.
Well, I'm actually surprised that impact was what most of us actually fear, which was nearly head-on, and it's good news that he's awake, alert. We're going to look at his arm and leg, but apparently there's nothing more serious. We'll keep up to date on that as well.
Well, it's really amazing the safety features that these cars have advanced into, and a couple years ago, Paul, that would have been a lot more serious of a problem.
Battle is at the front of the field at Indianapolis. We're on the 66th lap. They are the leaders. Kenny Breck, followed by Eddie Cheever.
Kenny is not getting away from Cheever. Cheever's actually making a run. He's got the draft working. He's looking for a spot to pull out, but he ain't going to get her done. Well, yeah, there he goes.
Look at this. Eddie Cheever tries to come to the inside. Can he intimidate him out of it? He stays right there. Cheever stays in that fight. Battle for the lead at Indy, but no, Cheever can't get it done. You were right, Tom.
Well, Kenny didn't give him any room there, actually, and kept his foot in it. So Kenny Breck moved to the outside and kept the speed up.
Remember, for the leader of the race, Kenny Breck, he was in the starting field last year, didn't make it to the green flag, was involved in a 3-car accident on the pace lap. Now here he is a year later and leading the Indy 500. But Eddie Cheever is going to try to have something to say about that. Scott Sharp is third.
Whoa, Cheever real close to the wall on the exit of turn 4, getting a good run on Kenny. He's got another run on him right here.
Now Cheever, a little better run going into the corner, and he grabs him. So Eddie Cheever picks up the lead of the Indianapolis 500 in his Rachel Potato Chips car, brand new sponsor for him.
Again, inside Sharp's car, but actually Breck was starting to hold up guys. There was 4 or 5 guys that packed up until Eddie got around, and we'll see what happens now. John Paul on the inside of Sharp.
John Paul Jr., he goes for the move. Remember, he started the practice here in another team, another opportunity, and then that ride went away for him just before they opened the track. He got this ride, and look at that. John Paul Jr. runs in 4th place, now in 3rd.
That in-car was Lyondike making a move on Sharp.
Ari Lyondike comes around Scott Sharp, so everybody is on the charge at the front of the field. Ari Lyondike started back 28.
And Paul, don't forget, Ari Lyondike has to make as much ground up on the racetrack as possible, because every time he pits, he is absent 1st and 2nd gear. So pit stops become intolerably slow and long. And when you're covering a football field a second, you can lose a lot of time on pit road.
Eddie Cheever takes the lead, the 7th different leader of the day. The first time Cheever has led Indy since 9 laps back in 1992.
This is a battle between Breck and John Paul. Again, that problem with Lyondike in the gearbox could become a real problem, especially if we have green light type pit stops. If they're under the yellow, it's not nearly as severe.
Well, the sky here continues to get lighter and lighter. In fact, we do see some patches of blue coming through. You would not have believed that if you had been in the group coming to the track as the gates opened at 5 o'clock this morning. The rain was pouring hard, but the Indianapolis Motor Speedway crews and the Pep Boys Indy Racing League, they did a very nice job in getting the track ready to go. The delay was not nearly as long as we had anticipated. They got that track dry and ready to go racing. Cheever, Breck, John Paul Jr.
Tremendous job by John Paul here that we're looking at, the red and white car. Got in this car late after actually Danny and Gaius had an accident early in the month and wasn't cleared to drive. And
here's Billy Boat. He comes back onto the track 19 laps behind the race and in 22nd position. The pole sitter driving the Conseco car for A.J. Foyt.
Again, back to John Paul. He got into Gaius's car. He had trepidation about doing that, getting into somebody's car because they got injured. It's a tough deal. John Paul had been in that same situation himself, but doing an excellent job so far today.
Now, owing to that lengthy caution, it is now a little difficult to predict where the next set of pit stops will actually come. And as you already know, a couple of the teams are running deliberately out of order. Most notable there is Lazier's situation. We'll certainly keep track of that. Well, he's now running back in 9th place.
Yeah, he's 9th place, but he's got a lot bigger window as far as fuel's concerned because he stopped so late in that last segment. So it'll be interesting to see if the race comes to him.
Now, that's what makes Indianapolis so very special, is all of the strategy at the first 2 races and most of the races in the Pep Boys IRL season. We would be approaching the end of the race about this point, approaching the 200-mile mark, but it's those 300 extra miles that have not been run before this year that can make all the difference in the world, and that's why the strategy is so critical here. The others tend to be sprint races. This you really have to plan for. Jerry Punch.
All right, they broke a header and they are having problems now with the car. We are told it may be changing a battery. They're working on the electronics on the left side. They have the left side pod off, and of course the engine cover off. So Jack Miller losing very, very valuable time. A litany of problems for the dentist here at Indianapolis.
Yeah, the number 40 crest card, appropriate sponsor for Dr. Jack Miller. There's Cheever.
Well, fast.
There's Boat, slow. John Paul Jr. just moved into second place. We took a look at Boat coming off the corner slow. John Paul Jr. got around Kenny Brack and grabbed second place.
Well, Boat's quite a few laps down, so he's probably going to let these leaders go.
Ari Leyendijk is right there as well behind Kenny Brack. So first through fourth, they are together on the front straightaway.
Again, on board with Leyendijk as he runs down the front straightaway, entering turn 1. Again, the hand on top of the wheel. Real close to the wall in the short chute, and then he brings her back down into the apex of turn 2. The exit of turn 2, and now he's down the straightaway. It looks like he might be trying to talk to the crew with the radio button with his left hand. The drivers who use the straightaways here at Indy, they're long enough where you have time to actually talk and think about what's going on with the race car and try to communicate that to the crew so they know what to do on the next pit stop.
Kenny Brack with Ari Leyendijk there. Brack led this race for 21 laps, the most of any of the leaders.
Again, Leyendijk starting to catch Brack. We've got traffic right ahead. That's Jimmy Kite in the blue and orange yellow car there that they're getting by.
Kite, the fastest rookie in the field. Boy, see how high he came off that corner? Leyendijk really got up there.
Well, Ari's been around this place a lot of laps, and he knows how to get the most out of a race car.
So this is the battle for third place.
Again, inside. It's interesting. He actually almost takes another grip with his right hand on top of that wheel to get through the corner. See the wheel bouncing a little bit. It's not a balance problem. It's just that these cars are so sensitive. They're sprung pretty stiffly to try to make the aerodynamics work as well as they can.
50 feet wide here. 60 feet when they get into the corners, 2.5 miles around. Corners a quarter mile each. Short chute connects each of them. They call it an oval. It's really more of a rectangle. And for 81 years, it has provided some great racing. It's doing it once again here today. The 82nd running of the Indianapolis 500. Eddie Cheever is leading John Paul Jr. now just by 0.4. So the interval between John Paul Jr. and Cheever beginning to come down while we continue to focus on this battle, which is the closest in the field between Kenny Brack of Sweden and Ari Leyendijk, originally from Holland, now lives in the Phoenix area.
Again, this is the battle for third and fourth, just right behind the leaders.
In fact, the onboard camera from time to time, you get a glimpse of the leaders just ahead. Cheever and John Paul Jr. John Paul Jr. has never led the Indy 500 in 6 previous starts. Pretty close right now. Back at Indianapolis, the leader is John Paul Jr. You see him there, that blue and black car right behind him, the red and white machine is John Paul Jr. We are getting very close to what should be stops for all of the field, or at least most of it. There is your fuel window for Cheever, John Paul Jr., and Kenny Brack, first, second, and third. The move from the last pit stop, all 4 of the top 4 are right together on the track.
Yeah, as the fuel window goes, as we run a segment on a load of fuel, everybody seems to gather towards the end of the segment, and it's going to make for a great race.
Cheever, John Paul Jr., Kenny Brack, Ari Leyendijk, the top 4. Robbie Unser has moved up to 5th place now. Then Davey Hamilton, Scott Sharp, Steve Knapp, Buddy Lazier, and Stefan Gregoire round out the top 10. Quick glimpse of Groff there.
Well, 3 wide. We see somebody entering the pits right there. causing some guys to scatter a little bit behind him. But pit stops are coming. John Paul.
There's John Paul Jr. as he comes down onto the pit road for his stop. He comes out of second place. Arie Luyendyk inherits second place.
Watching this crew. Revs up. Waiting for the fuel only now. All tires have been changed. No handling adjustments. Rolling. 18.5 seconds.
You can see him tear away the tape. That was interesting. I don't know if that was head padding or what. As he came in, you could see some stuff flopping around, but they got that problem taken care of.
And the leader has made a turn, as has Scott Sharp. There's the leader, the 51 car. Rachel's potato chip machine, Eddie Cheever.
Locking
Scott
up the
Sharp
right
also
front.
came in.
Locking up the right front on the entry.
Jerry Punch.
40-year-old Eddie Cheever comes in. He will make a slight air pressure adjustment in the right rear. He said the car is leaning on the right rear. It thinks it may start to get loose. Owen Snyder in the crew. Oh, they can't get the fuel couple. He begins to pull away. There's fuel down the left side pod. Now, Cheever puts it back in gear and pulls away a costly pit mistake here in the Cheever pit.
That was scary, actually reminiscent of Lloyd Ruby, who tried to pull away once with fuel hose connected and pulled the side of the car out.
Well, fortunately, that wasn't a big problem. They got away with it somehow.
Arie Luyendyk, as the leader of the race, now comes onto the pit. And he will head into the Treadway Racing Team service area. Very steady run for Luyendyk. Look how carefully he's obeying the 100-mile-an-hour speed limit in the pit area.
And remember, Paul, the biggest concern for this team right now is not 4 tires, not 35 gallons of fuel, not any sort of adjustment, because they will make none. It's what's going to happen in about 3 seconds. When they drop the jack, they're going to have to push him away. Let's watch. You can see, taking away. He tries to run it. Robbie Unser also in, trying to drag race down as Arie Luyendyk has a very good stop under green flag conditions with his problems.
Boy, he had to leave in third gear. You could hear all the RPMs that he had in the motor, and when he let the clutch out, they really came down, but he got away with it.
So Arie Luyendyk overcomes the ills of that problem at the back end of the car and gets it back into the fight and does it without a great deal of trouble. Watching Cheever now with John Paul Jr. right behind him.
Davey Hamilton in there, trying to get a new set of Reeboks on that thing.
Hamilton in second when he came into the pits. There's Kenny Breck as he slows down. Kenny was scored last time across the stripe, but everyone's heading into the pits as the leader of the run.
Well, Breck's running pretty slow. I don't know what he's doing there, guys.
That's more than just a slowing down. Fuel?
That's 3 and 4, and he entered on the back straightaway. Some kind of problem there.
So A.J. Foyt's other car, Kenny Breck as the pilot, may not make it all the way down the pit area to A.J. Foyt's pit.
Other guys trying to get in the pit here. This is going to be tight on the pit entry.
First glimpse of that car, we simply thought it was moving down toward the pit area. AJ's looking down there. He's on the radio to Kenny Breck.
I don't know if they ran it dry or not, Paul.
Boy, what a shame it would be if they did.
Well, Paul, all they asked, the crew asked Kenny, are you still rolling? And Kenny used a lot of calmness and said, yes, I am, but very slowly. They do not know what the problem is. Maybe the concern is that he ran out of fuel. We're going to have to wait and see.
Jackie just went by us at the start-finish line. He's barely going to make it if he gets there.
Well, he may in fact make it. A.J. Foyt's watching.
Well, he's going to make it to the pits, but he's losing valuable time. You heard A.J. say sorry about that, indicating maybe they ran him out of fuel.
Could be exactly what it was.
Also, what could have happened is maybe Kenny inadvertently hit the wrong switch, because one thing that we didn't hear AJ say on the air, but I heard monitoring his radio, is he said something about we had a problem with the switch. That could be on the dashboard componentry. They did make a chassis adjustment in the front of the car, and now the engine has been killed. And AJ just radioed in, just let it wide open. and try and get it to refire. It's not refiring, guys.
There it goes.
Now my question is, who's more angry, A.J. Voigt or Kenny Breck?
Well, anger or frustration, I'm not sure which. Oh, that's anger. That's very definitely Texas anger there. Kenny Breck comes back into the fight at the front of the field. Lazier is the leader.
Good battle there between Lyondike and one of the Unser boys.
Let me see if I can explain to you guys what AJ is so upset about. You know, AJ Voigt comes from the old school, as we say. Reluctant to use radios. Was one of the guys that was very reluctant to rely upon computerization. All these cars, as you know, have onboard telemetry. AJ is one of those guys that really feels that a driver should tell you by the seat of their pants. He showed the frustration towards his nephew, who is the chief engineer and component and computer guy. And as you watch AJ Voigt do a number on a laptop computer, remember those things go for about $7,000, but to win here at Indy pays over $1 million.
Yeah, AJ doesn't care.
Well, AJ, one thing you can't do by the seat of your pants is feel how much fuel's in that car, and those boys are upset right now.
Ari Lyondike with Robbie Unser, the red, white, and blue car right behind him, the highest placed rookie at the moment in the field. The whole family was here to try and help both Robbie as a rookie and Johnny Unser get into the race.
Well, traffic there again. That looks like Buzz Calkins coming in the pits right in front of him, but it gave him a run down the front straightaway. Robbie Unser making a pass on Lyondike.
Yeah, Buzz Calkins, and Robbie got him. Robbie got past Ari Lyondike. That puts Robbie up into 5th place. Look at the difference in lines there, too. We've seen that a couple of times, Tom.
Well, a lot of times the line is dictated by how the chassis is handling. The driver's got to drive it where it feels the best and he can maintain the most speed. And whether you're loose, pushing, or the degree that you've got a handling problem really affects your line.
Past couple of laps have been run as high as 209 miles an hour. Here's Buddy Lazier into the pits. He last stopped on lap 61. This is the 93rd lap, Gary.
And we expect that they'll make an adjustment on the front wings. First, they take care of the routine business. They get the fresh Goodyears on. There's the adjustment. Both sides, one full turn, waiting now for the fueling process. The former champion is rolling 14.4. Much better stop for Ron Himmelgarn's team.
So when he came in, that gives Eddie Cheever the lead of the race. He'll be pursued by John Paul Jr., who should only be just a few seconds behind.
Actually, just one car, just a lap car right in front of the yellow car is all that's between him and the leader.
That red and white car is John Paul Jr. The Klipsch machine, number 81. So can John Paul close in with the Lazier stop as well? Davey Hamilton and Robbie Unser able to surge forward.
Again, just a tremendous effort here for John Paul and that team. A small team, not a whole lot of funding, and they're right there at the top of the pack.
You know, but that's something we can't forget as we run toward the end of this race, is that Buddy Lazier is very definitely running out of the pit stop order. And my guess would be that that will be a key strategy coming to the end.
And Paul, you were talking about the great story with John Paul Jr. Remember, he came here, he was supposed to drive for Paul Diatlovich and Chuck Buckman in the PDM racing entry. But when they had a problem at Phoenix and John Paul failed to qualify, they went $140,000 in the hole. They had to look for additional sponsorship. It came along with Jack Hewitt, as we watched Jimmy Kite slowing down on the racetrack and on pit road. And what happened was John Paul Jr. is the one that went to PDM and said, look, you need to go with the rookie Jack Hewitt. And he walked out of there and he said, I'll just find a ride as the yellow comes out.
The yellow light flashes on for Jimmy Kite, the fastest rookie in the field, as he rolls to a stop. Eddie Cheever is the leader of the race. John Paul Jr. in second. There's a couple of old line tacticians. Bobby Unser working his son Robbie, and A.J. Voigt keeping track of Kenny Breck and Billy Boat. We'll return with more of the Indianapolis 500 after this message and a word from your ABC stations. Back in Indianapolis under yellow for Jimmy Kite. They got him back to the pits, and he is back on the racetrack. The Goodyear blimp Stars and Stripes is one of the 6 Goodyear blimps operating around the world. 3 operate in the USA. There are 2 in Europe and 1 in Latin America. Now, watching for the leader of the race, Eddie Cheever. He's in the pits.
And Paul, this caution flag, a big break for Eddie Cheever. Remember his last stop when the fuel nozzle got stuck and he pulled away? Well, they lost 6 gallons of fuel. That would have cost them dearly. 11.4 seconds of routine stop, and Cheever is down and away.
Routine just a little short on fuel, though. Now the drivers and their teams will get a chance to unwind and enjoy themselves, putting the weeks of preparation for this Indy 500 behind them at the awards banquet. We have now is John Paul Jr. inheriting the lead of the race from Eddie Cheever, who came into the pits to make sure that his tank was topped off completely. Remember, he had a faltering problem on the last stop, and they didn't get a good disconnect. So we're expecting a green flag as they come around onto the front stretch. You look at the field on the back stretch.
Well, very interesting carburation day, John Paul, and that car had a problem with the clutch, Paul, and it was a new clutch. It was stiff. He pushed it over center, and so they had to take that car completely apart, put a new clutch in that thing, and it's got him to the front of the pack.
John Paul Jr., as the leader, is second in the line. He's led a run 784 laps at Indy, and now he leads a lap, finally. Pace car comes off. Remember, John Paul Jr. is the key, second in the line.
Well, it's sort of an erratic restart there. A big gap between the top couple cars.
Scott Goodyear jumped out there very quickly. Whoa, look at this. Saw the pit guys hunkering down. They saw this coming. They wanted to make sure that they were safe in that no man's land between the pit and the main straightaway. But Arie Luyendyk is in the midst of a big fight.
Well, that might have surprised him a little bit, because there's a couple guys that just poured her down into turn 1.
It's John Paul Jr., Davey Hamilton, Robbie Unser, Arie Luyendyk. Those are the top 4.
Who do we got slow on the infield? Is it?
This could have been the one that was smoking for us.
It's one of the Hemagarn cars.
The red might indicate that it's Johnny Unser. It's very difficult to tell in the rear view.
Yeah, it's Johnny.
Well, Johnny Unser, the number 9 car, he slows to a stop. Safety team, of course, is right there. They come out from behind the wall. They want to make sure that there's nothing in the engine compartment on fire. And look at the battle continue at the front of the field. Eddie Cheever works his way through traffic as we pass the halfway point at Indianapolis. 100 laps complete.
That was him. That's Cheever and Lazier right there having a real great battle going on right now.
That is a battle for 5th place. Both, without question, contenders for the win here in the Indianapolis 500.
The question is, what happened to Johnny Unser, his Lazier's teammate?
The Brute Race summary. John Paul Jr., the leader, at the halfway point. Average speed 133 miles an hour. Of course, we've had almost 34 laps of caution. Those guys out of the race, there they are, and that list is longer than we would have hoped at this point, the halfway point, 250 miles. Tom?
Well, again, the question mark here is Lazier's teammate, Johnny Unser, just had that problem out of the race. Is that an omen for the rest of that team? We'll have to wait and see.
And of course, now they have completed the 101st lap, and in doing so, it is an official race now. Should rain come back into the area, but it sure doesn't look like it, Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, A.J. Foyt has finally calmed down. I got a chance to talk to Tommy LeMans and confirmed what we suspected. Tommy and the crew on the power team car did run Kenny Breck flat right out of fuel. That's why A.J. was so livid.
Makes it understandable.
Well, it does, but you know what? The world doesn't want to hear about the labor pains. They just want to see the baby.
Okay. You see J.J. Yaley there. Remember, he was one of the cars sideways. In fact, the key car sideways in that first lap incident that brought out the yellow in the first turn. But he's back in the field and has been moving up. Currently sits in 13th place. Had 9 different leaders. Record is 12 different leaders set back in 1993. We're only at the halfway point.
Leaders are having a little traffic to try to get through right now.
Back with Ari Lyondike, currently 4th.
Again, you can see him take that other grip on the steering wheel. Very unusual. A lot of times you don't change your hand position on the steering wheel, but Lyondike seems to be moving him around quite a bit.
Well, Lyondike's now taking a pretty serious look at Robbie Unser, who's just ahead of him, red, white, and blue.
Robbie's trying to get by Marco Greco in the red car. The traffic in front of him. Robbie's trying to get his way through traffic.
Marco Greco is 17th. Haven't mentioned him much today. Single car effort.
Yeah, Robbie got a good run on him on the back straightaway there, and he's going to be able to get Clyde. Pretty close, though. They didn't see each other as quick as I wanted them to.
Oh, look at Ari. He was trying to snooker Robbie Unser there. Tried to get in below him and surprise him.
Well, I think the one he surprised was Greco, because they both got by Greco down that straightaway.
John Paul Jr. still the leader. Robbie Unser is in 3rd. Jerry Punch?
Well, Bobby Unser is in the pits for his son Robbie. And Bobby, are you calling the race today for Robbie?
Well, I'm trying to. Hopefully I am.
You got to be very proud. He's having one whale of a day.
Well, we're very proud of him. He's running as fast as race leaders, and the thing about it is that pit stops are hurting us because he has absolutely no rear brakes at all on the car. So every time he has to stop, he flat spots the front tires. So that's really hurting things, but other than that, he's very fast on the track.
What have you told him about the final 90 laps? How do you play it?
Oh, that's a long ways off. We're going to worry about that when the time comes. I'll know what to tell him, believe me.
All right, Bobby Unser correcting his young son Robbie. And Paul, remember the connection to May 24th and the Unser family.
Yeah, the race has been run on May 24th only 3 times and always won by a member of the Unser family. Another May 24th. Well, what are the chances that guy can do it?
Interesting comment, though. No rear brakes. Now, a lot of racetracks, that would pretty much end your day. At this place, you don't use the brakes when you're at speed. It's just traffic and pit stops that make brakes be very critical.
We'll take a look as they hit the line. Boy, look at John Paul Jr. at 210, but Davey Hamilton in 2nd place was the quickest thus far. We'll look to see who's the quickest. Boy, they're all quick. There's Robbie Unser scoring up at 2:11.7.
A little bit faster pace than earlier. We looked earlier, they were in the 2:08, 2:09 area. Now the track is actually getting faster.
And Robbie Unser is the fastest of those running at the front of the field. John Paul Jr., Davey Hamilton, Ari Lyondike, Buddy Lazier. That's the top of the order. The 82nd running of the Indianapolis 500. Been a most unusual race to this point. 108 laps complete.
John Paul in the red, white, and blue car. I'm sorry, that's one of the Unsers trying to get by Bosell, who's down a bunch of laps. Remember, he had the problem right at the beginning.
Yeah, he's 35 laps behind the lead of the race, and there comes Ari past him as well as he continues his pursuit of Robbie Unser.
Again, they're in a segment of the race where they're just cruising. They're just trying to keep the car underneath them so it'll be with them at the end of the race.
Running back in 10th place is Stefan Gregoire. You ride with him now. The Blue Star car, the old blue car, finally got themselves a sponsor.
They got all kinds of names on her right there. You can see the 33.0 on the dash there. Again, that's a fuel reading, an indication when he sees that in the dash, he's got to be looking for the pits.
35 gallons of methanol fuel, the capacity on these cars. Brought it down from 40 when they came out with this new formula for the Pep Boys Indy Racing League. Normally aspirated engines and the whole new chassis design of the G-Force, the Laura, and the Riley Scott chassis.
Yeah, if you look at Stefan's hands in the corner, number one, he doesn't take a new grip on the wheel, and the wheel looks a lot steadier. It's not vibrating around nearly as much as it is in Lyondike's car.
Stefan is running in 10th place, a lap behind the leader. Got caught in that on a pit stop. Arie Luyendyk.
Now see him fighting the wheel a lot more. It's jerking around a lot more. I don't know what, that's an indication. Maybe we got a G-force here with Luyendyk as compared to the Delar that Steffen's in.
Firestone tires on Arie Luyendyk's car. Battle between Goodyear and Firestone continues at Indianapolis. So now we have completed 110 laps at Indianapolis, and John Paul Jr.'s number 81 is on the top of the scoring pylon. But John Paul Jr. just came in and out of the pits, relinquishing the lead of the race over to Davey Hamilton, but a nice 14-second stop.
Trying to listen to the radio on the pit stop. He had a nice pit stop, but they put quite a bit of front wing in that car, Paul. For leading the race and going as fast as he was, it's surprising that they put that much wing back in that car.
There's our new leader, Davey Hamilton, the Reebok car. He started in 8th place. Robbie Unser came into the pits. Marco Greco came into the pits. Those were all routine service.
Well, great job by Davey. He's been close to the front all day from Boise, Idaho, a big modified sprint car type guy, and it's fun to see Davey at the front of this pack.
Arie Luyendyk is 1.6 seconds back. Davey Hamilton, the 10th different leader today. Race has been action-packed. We had one major incident, 6 cars involved. 5 of the drivers were checked out at the hospital. And we've talked with all of them, Sam Schmidt, Mark Dismore, Roberto Guerrero, Stan Waddles, and Billy Rowe. Jim Guthrie was alert and awake as he came to the track hospital. They were worried about some pain in the leg and an arm. They sent him on to Methodist Hospital of Indiana here, and we are now waiting for the report back from Methodist Hospital to further update the condition on Jim Guthrie.
The leader's coming in, Paul. Davey's heading towards the pits.
So now Davey Hamilton onto the pit road with Arie Luyendyk second place right behind him.
And Paul, Arie Luyendyk goes by a pitting Davey Hamilton. They are one stall apart. As we watch both pit stops, the word goes out to reset the fuel meter. 4 tires all the way around. Nominal stops for both. The big question mark, though, is the problem with Arie Luyendyk's car. 13.3 for Hamilton, 12.2 for Luyendyk. But you can see the problem when you don't have first and second gear. Luyendyk comes out the loser.
Well, the Hamilton crew had a great pit stop there. They actually beat him in the box, and besides that, with the clutch problem, I don't even think that was a factor on who won that pit stop contest.
Arie Luyendyk finally gets it up into a gear where he can get some speed out of the car. Eddie Cheever assumes the lead now with Buddy Lazier in second place, 4.8 seconds back.
And if this goes green all the way, the gear problem that Luyendyk's having could be a factor. It's got to cost you time, and it's hard on the equipment. You got to slip that clutch to get it going in a higher gear.
And Tom, that's exactly the problem with Arie Luyendyk. He revs that thing up, and every time he begins to creep away, you can hear the clutch just laboring as hard as it can. With some of the clutch problems we've had, you've got to become concerned. We still have a couple of pit stops to go.
Are you smelling anything down there, Jack? Sometimes you can smell those clutches when they're starting to go.
Well, so far we haven't smelled anything, but usually by the time you smell it, it's too late.
You got that right.
You saw Cheever overhaul Stefan Gregoire, putting Gregoire 2 laps down. Kenny Breck, you saw him just a moment ago. He's a lap behind the leader. The leader is this car, the 51 Rachel Potato Chip car of Eddie Cheever. Buddy Lazier, the Delta Fawcett number 91, is second. Steve Knapp, the rookie, sits in third place right now with John Paul Jr. in the Clips number 81 in fourth. Robbie Unser with his stop fell down to 7th in the order. There's still plenty of time left at the Indy 500.
Well, you can see the Dyson going on here. We got good traffic situations. We got good racing going on. Sharp underneath the doctor there. Surprised the doctor a little bit. Lazier had to sort of watch. and the doc's coming in.
That's enough for him. Now, remember, he's had his problems in the day in that 40 car, and he is back coming down on the pit road one more time. This is something different as Kenny Breck in and out of the pits, but you saw that Dr. Jack Miller was undoing his straps and has come to a stop. So he has a problem that is more than just routine, and he's not going to make it to the pits at all. Yellow comes on, and that's because of Dr. Jack Miller in the number 40 car. So Eddie Cheever is the leader at the Indianapolis 500, and we have our 6th caution of the day. Back at Indianapolis, 123 laps complete. We are under caution. Next on ABC Sports, the J.C. Penney LPGA Skins game. Road was Eddie Cheever. Looked nice and routine, uneventful. Good work by the crew. Team Cheever. And coming in, actually getting across the line, and will be scored for a lap in the lead, was Buddy Lazier. Again, because of pit placement relative to the start-finish line. Again, this was a smooth stop as well.
Again, these stops are under the yellow, Paul, so they can take their time, be a little more deliberate when it's under the yellow.
Well, a couple turns on the front wing for Buddy Lazier. Gary Gerald?
Lee Kunzman, tell us about the change you made on the front wing. What are you looking for?
Well, we're just basically trying to keep the car balanced. We've been pretty lucky all day keeping it balanced. I thought we were in trouble early on. We had a little tire problem early on, pressure problem. We must have ran over something, but we had to make an early stop and got us out of sync. But luckily things fell our way and we made a couple of different moves, and we're now in pretty good shape, I think.
You're on the Goodyear option tire. That's why you started the race, so you've stayed consistent in that respect, right?
That's correct. They're working very well. We're not having any chassis problems at all. It's working very well. We had a little problem early on, but that was a pressure problem, something that can't be controlled, you know.
That's a story on Lazier looking for win number 2 at Indy. Jerry Punch?
Well, the veteran Owen Snyder's calling the shots for Eddie Cheever. And Owen, you guys have had a flawless day. Haven't touched much on the car, have you?
No, we really haven't. Eddie's been real happy with the car. In fact, he's been so happy he left the pits a little early one time. He's wanting to get back out there, and we still had our fueler plugged in, so we've made a mistake. You know, we made that about lap 100, and we made up for it. We got back in. We're back in sync now, so we're 2 stops away, and we may even start trimming her out here. Might start picking up a little more speed for the end of this thing.
All right, Owen Snyder, remember, he called the shots for Al Unser Jr. back in 1992 when he won.
Well, John Paul Jr. back in the lead under this caution. It's the Pit Boys Indy Racing League and the 82nd running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. 126 laps complete. We have just heard from the hospital, Methodist Hospital of Indiana, in regard to the condition of Jim Guthrie. He is going into surgery for a fractured right arm, and he also has contusions on his right leg, but that is particularly great news when you consider the impact that he saw nearly head-on with the wall. So we hope that Jim Guthrie recovers very quickly from that surgery and those injuries. John Paul Jr. is the leader of the race, but he's got a problem ahead of him. There are a whole gaggle of cars lined up ahead of John Paul Jr. as they come back to the green. You can see him kind of sitting out there. There he is, right behind John Paul Jr. And we'll be looking at the battle behind him, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. That's Hamilton, Lyondike, and Robbie Unser.
Well, that's Scott Sharp leading him down to this green flag restart.
He is almost 2 laps down. The leader is 8 cars behind in that line.
You see behind the 2 yellow cars, John Paul's looking for a way to get around. He's looking for something.
Right now behind Scott Goodyear as he heads into the corner, we look at Hamilton and Lyondike. Hamilton, the fluorescent orange car, Lyondike, primarily black and white.
Well, Cheever,
on board Lyondike.
The Cheever got underneath the Unser in the short shoot. I think he might have surprised him.
There's Eddie Cheever. You just get a glimpse of him. He's third car in that line right behind Lyndike. There he is. Boy, good fight as they came back to the green here.
Well, a lot of traffic here, Paul. They got to be careful. Somebody's out in the high groove. He'll be out of the throttle.
Whoa.
Davey Hamilton. Oh.
Marco Greco
was surprised. Everybody's diving in there, and Marco wasn't expecting that last one.
Here comes Jeff Ward. He's on the fly. Boy, look how these things are changing here.
Well, Jeff had some trouble. He had trouble early, but he's got the thing running awful fast right now.
3 laps behind the lead in 14th, but he's obviously matching the pace of the front of the race.
Here comes Cheever. This is inside Ward's car now. We haven't been inside Jeff's car all day. He had problems earlier. The orange tape on the wheel, traffic ahead.
Orange tape, of course, to help tell him when he comes into the pits that the wheels are all straight and pointed right. Look at how fast he's closed.
Well, again, he got a good draft from both those cars, was able to tuck in behind and get them down the front straightaway.
Isn't that amazing? We've seen that several times before today. Cars that just suddenly are really flying. Now, battle second, third, and fourth. Hamilton, Lyndike, Cheever.
All right together. Again, traffic right in front of them.
Everybody looking for a tow.
Davey got his, but look at Harry. He has even a better tow.
Ari Lyndike tries to get inside Hamilton as they both come around Jack Hewitt. Oh, look at him come off the corner. They come side by side through the chute. Lyndike forges ahead.
I can't believe Davey was able to hang on out there. He had to roll out a little, but he didn't roll out of it much, Paul.
Eddie Cheever gets trapped back there, but he'll be moving fairly soon as well. There he is. He makes the move to try and stay in contact with Davey Hamilton. John Paul Jr., the leader. We're focusing second, third, fourth. And for that matter, fifth, because Steve Knapp, you can see him back there.
Yep, Steve Knapp in the second orange car, looking car back there, just moving around underneath.
Report coming in from one of the observers that Billy Boat, who has not been in a great position, 19 laps behind the lead in 20th, may have finally shut it down. Now, there he is.
Well, Billy's had a tough day. This looks like it's going to be the end of it.
Well, but we have suggested that before, and the new rule that allows them to get the cars out of the pit area, which is strictly for safety. The yellow comes out for Billy Boat, but it does, it certainly helps them get these cars repaired and get them back into the fight. 8th yellow of the day, A.J. Foyt. 1 car left. If Billy's out, that's Kenny Breck, and he is currently, see him there, in 9th place. Under caution at Indianapolis, the caution came out for Billy Boat, the 8th of the day, 41 laps of caution. You look down on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway from the Goodyear blimp. It's the 58th year that a Goodyear blimp has covered the Indianapolis 500. Now, under this yellow, Jeff Ward had an interesting situation. He'd run 8 laps of green flag. Now, you're riding on board with him just a couple of laps ago. See how he's kind of wandering around the track?
You see the car wiggle?
What do you think that is?
Well, look at the left front, Paul.
Here's what that's all about. Yep.
Right rear wheel. Very fortunate this is under the yellow. He ran 6 or 7 laps into the green, Paul. That's an unusual situation, but a lot of times when you get on the brakes, a couple times it can knock that wheel loose.
And the car was able to make it to the pit area. Now tonight, on the wonderful Wars board once again, remember 8 of them started the race. Steve Knapp is now the highest position rookie in the field, though both Knapp and Robbie Unser are looking very strong, and there remain 6 of the 8 still in the run. So John Paul Jr. is the leader of the race, but he's 8 cars back in that line. Ari Lyndike is second in the race itself. Cheever is third, Davey Hamilton is fourth, and Steve Knapp, the rookie, is fifth. Also, there is the story of Scott Sharp, who currently runs in 8th place, 1 lap behind the leader, but he's ahead of the leader, and he may in fact be able to get his lap back as they come around for the green flag. He's right there positioned so that he can in fact do that.
Well, actually, it's John Paul that's leading the pack this time on this restart.
Now the 8 have gone away.
We had that short yellow there,
sorry.
Paul.
So
we got all the leaders at the front, some lap cars in between. This is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, this is an in line for the lead.
There's Lyondike going under Yaley.
And Shaley.
Look at Fast Eddie right behind him.
Cheever chasing Lyondike.
Lazier on the outside looking for a spot around.
Lazier was looking for racing room, got caught up behind Yaley. Cheever in pursuit of Lyondike. Lyondike, of course, chasing John Paul Jr. Roberto Guerrero that they moved to the inside of, not a factor.
Well, Roberto's lucky to be in there. He made the repairs from the big incident earlier, and now he's back on the racetrack.
That 6-car accident up in the north end. And once again, good news on Jim Guthrie. A fracture will be repaired surgically and a contusion. So best wishes out to Jim Guthrie. Hope we see you back at the track soon.
Well, we've got the top 3 running nose to tail right now, Paul, with no lap traffic in between them. They were all able to clear the traffic without a problem.
John Paul Jr., Lyondike, Cheever, 1, 2, 3. All right together there. John Paul has 1.3 second advantage. Speeds again at the line.
You can see Lyondike's running a little quicker than John Paul on that lap, and they were pretty much all out of traffic, Paul. So this could mean that we're going to see some action here shortly.
Means that at least for that lap, Lyondike, the fastest car on the course.
Well, remember, Ari Lyondike with a full tank full of fuel was complaining of an understeer problem. It means the car wanted to push towards the wall. As we begin to run the fuel load down, the car's gone from neutral to just about where the balance is that he likes it right now. Now, as he runs the rest of the fuel down, you know, guys, it'll go just a little bit loose, as Mr. Unser used to say.
Well, hopefully they can catch it with the controls the driver has on board. He can move the anti-sway bars both front and rear, and he's got the weight jacker that Jack's been talking about previously. The weight jacker is actually a device on the right front spring. He can raise or lower the right front corner of the car. In doing so, he transfers weight back and forth across the front of the car, and that really affects how the car handles and gets through the corner.
He's closing in now. The lap leaders, John Paul with 31. Battle's right up there at the front. Haven't seen Kenny Breck for a while, 2 laps behind the lead in 9th place now. The lone hope of the A.J. Foyt team. Scott Goodyear gotten his car off the track. He was 38 laps behind the leader and 22nd when he did that. First, second, and third still battle. Last time around 212 miles an hour.
Well, for Goodyear, for a guy that's 20, 30, 10 laps down, you know, it's hard to keep the emotional edge up there, and sometimes you can be just a hazard to other people when you're out there and know you don't have a chance to win the race.
They come around Roberto Guerrero moving slowly on the front stretch, and Lyondike tries to make a move. Can't make anything work there. Cheever closing Lyondike. There's where the fight is right now.
It'll be fun to watch as the fuel load goes down as they put miles on these tires and how it affects the handling of the cars as they go through the cycle of pit stops.
140 laps complete. Now look at the time difference here. This is Lyondike's closure on John Paul Jr. over the past 3 or 4 laps.
Well, Cheever is catching Lyondike, so we're going to have a 3-car pack up here shortly, Paul.
And Tom, it's interesting you're talking about that chase up front. Keep in mind, John Paul has the favored Dallara chassis that's been so impressive this month. Lyondike's in a G-Force. It didn't respond to the hot weather. We've had periodic sun breaking through. It is getting warmer. We wonder if that'll become a factor before this race is complete with now less than 60 laps to go.
Well, Gary, not only the chassis combination, but also the tires. John Paul's on Firestone. The next two guys are on Goodyear's.
And, of course, as Gary mentioned, with a little less than 60 to go, the pit stop strategy will also now begin to become so critical in this 82nd running of the Indy 500. Look at first, second, and third right together.
Well, this is fun to watch. A lot of guys felt that Goodyear had made some big gains on the Firestone car. Firestone's won the race the last couple of years here, but they feel Goodyear has closed the gap. But some people still feel that Firestone, throughout a long run, will dominate the Goodyear.
Last time around, John Paul Jr. felt the pressure. He kicked his speed up, fastest of the group in the lap, to 211.9, while Eddie Cheever ran at 211 flat, as did Arie Luyendyk. Cheever gets the car out into fresh air and then drops back in line into turn one.
Well, and Arie's actually lost a little bit of ground to John Paul at this time. Again, you got a Goodyear and a Firestone battling for second and third.
Down the long backstretch, headed north, turning back toward the west. Oh, what a great battle. And there's the potential fuel window upcoming. So we expect John Paul Jr. in the pits just any time now.
Now, by that graphic, you see Cheever has the option to go a lot farther than the other two guys in front of him.
And that's going to make a world of difference, is Cheever's positioning toward the end. When John Paul makes his stop, assume that he just have one more to go. Let's go to Gary Gerould.
Well, Paul, it may well be that John Paul is going to be the first in the sequence, and that could be a huge disadvantage. In fact, the crew has just gone over the wall. The tires are out, and he may really have to stretch these last two loads of fuel. Jack?
Well, Gary, Skip Paul says exactly that's the case, because he's going to wait till lap 151 to bring his car onto pit road. Hopefully they'll be able to do it with one final stop. Gary?
Eddie Cheever came back in, remember, guys, on lap 123 and topped it off, so he can go all the way to lap 156 before he'll pit, and they'll make a wing adjustment. He's complaining the car has too much push in heavy traffic.
Well, so there are some of the tactics that will play out toward the end of this race. Two cars separated in pit stops, and then Eddie Cheever. So
it was interesting, Jerry. You indicated that Cheever's got some understeer, some push, and he's concerned about that. But believe me, understeer is a lot better condition to have than the oversteer condition, the other side of that coin.
Luyendyk closes a bit, coming into the first turn. We're listening to John Paul Jr.'s two-way communication system.
Again on board Luyendyk again, as he's trying to get the crosshairs on John Paul.
Cheever is right there behind this car. Arie Luyendyk, look at this there. John Paul Jr. goes for the pits.
Leader's in. You see him get it walled down. He's on the brakes hard to get under the 100-mile-an-hour speed limit. That causes the car to wiggle.
So Luyendyk will pick up the lead. Eddie Cheever in second. And Gary Gerould awaits the arrival of John Paul Jr.
The Pelfrey team has been flawless thus far today. John Paul shakes his head no. He declines the drink. A veteran tough luck driver was in a wheelchair a year ago. No changes. They're cleaning the radiators, taking extra time, and they pulled a big chunk of debris out of there. Fueling complete. Oh, it's not a real good stop. Better than 17 seconds.
Yeah, but they did have to clear the coolers. That could have driven the engine temperature through the roof and taken that car out of the run. So with clear cooling once again, John Paul Jr. back into the fight. Luyendyk is the leader. Cheever is 0.7 of a second back.
And you might have heard over John Paul's radio, they said reset the fuel so you know exactly what kind of mileage you're getting and how far you can go in this next segment.
PCS Radio Shack car, Ari Lyons-Ike, Treadway Racing, based here in Indianapolis, Indiana. Ari lives in Phoenix, Arizona. Boy, look what they have ahead. There's Robbie Unser. He came through, missed his pit, and that means he has to go on around. Boy, did you see the cars that the leaders will soon be overhauling as they charge down the front stretch.
Plenty of traffic here, Paul.
5 cars ahead of the leader, Ari Lyons-Ike. The leader, John Paul Jr. and Ari Lyons-Ike. Now Ari trying to make a move.
3 wide here. 4 wide. Cheever's looking for another spot. Cheever had a run on Lyons-Ike, but again, 4 wide, he had no place to go.
Oh, Cheever was just trying to find any place that he could go as they went 3, then 4 wide, and the whole complexion at the front of the field continues to change.
Lyons-Ike in. Lyons-Ike.
Here comes Lyons-Ike.
He's probably thinking, I got to get out of this mess. That was a little heavy on the traffic side.
Boy, that was very tight. Ari Lyons-Ike looking to team Treadway for service, Jack.
And while Ari is coming in 1 lap sooner than he wanted to, the concern was the possibility of running out of fuel. Skip Ball leads the crew, working from the right side of the right front tire.
He had a problem with the gun on the right front.
That's right, Tom. He had a problem with the gun. Still, it's 13.8 is Eddie Cheever. And Robbie Unser finally makes his way back on the pit road in Eddie Cheever's team car.
Another one of the 2 Rachel potato chip cars. Look at Ari. Ari is struggling to get back to speed.
He might have lost another gear in that gearbox. We talked about the gear problem he had earlier. That car doesn't look like it's going to move.
Well, the last time he really dumped the clutch. High revs, got it out of there. It's not working this time. Ari Lyons-Ike. See him reach down, go for the gear shift.
Hey, Paul, here's what happened. As you and me and Tom just suspected, you can't run those clutches and slide them the way they have. The latest on the radio from Ari Lyons-Ike is that he thinks he has cooked the clutch.
Well, you can run without some gears in the gearbox. You can't run without the clutch. Now will they go yellow for Ari Lyons-Ike?
Well, he's got a spot there he could pull it off and maybe get out of the way, but
looks like he might be planning just that.
No, it actually looks like he's going the other way.
I thought he was going to turn out there, and so they could come out and pull him back in. He's not going to do that. So Eddie Cheever picks up the lead. Davey Hamilton in second. Rookie Steve Knapp in third. The yellow comes out for Eddie Cheever, the 9th of the day. Or for Ari Lyons-Ike, the 9th yellow of the day. He got just a few feet beyond the area where he could have been pulled back in and then pulled off onto the grass. The defending champion. Well, now the question will be Eddie Cheever. How long will he stay out? He was originally scheduled to come in for pit service on that lap, but with the slowdown with the yellow, he'll be able to stay out a little bit. What incredible luck for Eddie Cheever.
Well, it's the fate of the 500, Paul. I mean, just things go your way sometimes, and some days it's not your opportunity.
So Eddie Cheever stays out as the yellow comes on. John Paul Jr. is now 1 lap off of the pace. Back in Indianapolis, the magnificent aerial shots are provided by Goodyear and its aerial ambassador, the Stars and Stripes. There she floats high over the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and you will notice that is a blue sky for the naysayers who said that this race would not be gotten in today, though they were probably well supported in that if you would have seen the rain come down very early this morning. Well, the average speed of the race, 141.3 miles an hour. But the green race summary, well, it shows that the average speed is at 142. The degree race summary, 142.026 miles an hour. Looking at 2 different computers there. There's the real number, 142. And out after 150 laps. Too long a list at Indianapolis. Let's go to Gary.
Paul, you talk about the little things that win and lose races. Here's a very significant piece of debris that they cleaned out from the left side pot in front of the radiator of John Paul on that last stop. As a consequence, the stop was long at about 17.5 seconds. But the 3 seconds or so it took to get in there and pull this out certainly could make the difference of him being able to finish and contend in this race. So this was a big save for the Pelfrey crew on John Paul Jr. Jerry?
And this caution, a break for Eddie Cheever. They had called him to come in the time that next lap by, and the caution came out. Cheever came in and was going to make a front wing adjustment to try to trim the car out in traffic. Said he had a push in traffic. When he found out that Lyondike was the reason for the caution, he said, guys, leave it alone. He's the guy who was going to try to trim it out and catch. Now, leave it like it is. We should be just fine to the finish.
That's very interesting, Paul, to see that he thought he was going to have to get the car exactly right as far as handling was concerned if he had Lyondike and more competition. With Lyondike out, he figures he's got enough. He can go a little more conservative and still get the job done.
Here we go, green once again. There is Eddie Cheever, that blue and black car, number 51.
You see him run with the stickers on the tires still. It takes a couple laps to get those things up to temperature and scrub the stickers off the brand new tires.
Cheever, Lazier runs in second. Then rookie Steve Knapp. Then Davey Hamilton and John Paul Jr.
Look at that move down inside by Lazier. 3 or 4 wide, dropping to the inside.
He's under Jack Hewitt, comes up behind Dr. Jack Miller. And under the heading, you want to be lucky or good, Eddie Cheever has been both as we watch Buddy Lazier leading the race and then got a yellow at exactly the right time to make a pit stop under that yellow.
Was that Jack Hewitt in the yellow car right behind Lazier? Hewitt is getting a little racy late in the race.
The joy of so many short track fans, Jack Hewitt. Had a tough time making it into the race. Crashed once, spun once, still made it into the Indianapolis 500. Currently runs in 12th. Buddy Lazier, the 1996 winner, overcame the problem with his fractured spinal cord.
There's Cheever there.
And here comes Lazier. That's the interval, first to second. Just a little over 1 second.
Well, it's 1 second, but if you look on the computers, Lazier's running a little bit quicker on the last couple laps.
At the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the 82nd running of the Indianapolis 500. 158 laps of the 200 are now complete. We've had 9 different caution flags today for 47 of those laps. That slowed the race down just a bit, but slowed even more was the simple fact that there was rain in the Indianapolis area, and it delayed the start by nearly 40 minutes when they finally got the race underway. And the LPGA Skins game will be coming on right after the Indianapolis 500. Eddie Cheever is the leader. In second place, just 1.1 second back, is Buddy Lazier, the 1996 winner of the Indianapolis 500. And rookie Steve Knapp, look at him. Knapp in the fluorescent car trying to do battle with Buddy Lazier. It's a fight for second place. Let's go to the pits and Jerry Punch.
Well, Buddy Lazier's teammate Johnny Unsers had to call it today. Johnny, what put you out?
Well, I think we lost the motor. I'm not really sure, you know, but I'm pretty sure the motor let go. It's unfortunate, you know, because the car was good. We were pretty much where we wanted to be. We were running in the top 10 on the lead lap, and the thing let go, and the car was really coming to us. So now I want to see Robbie hang in there, and I'm glad to see Buddy up there in the front. So, you know, I got to just cheer them on right now.
Tough day for one answer anyway. Let's go to Jackaroo.
Well, Ari Lyondike, we've documented the clutch problem on your Radio Shack car, but let's talk about the drivers that are still out there. You've run against all of them. Who do you think has the advantage right now?
Right now, I think Eddie Cheever is pretty strong. John Paul Jr. is running really strong, but, you know, my car just got really, really good, and if I was on my own, the car was just flawless. A little bit of push in traffic, but, you know, it was still pretty early in the race. But I knew sooner or later the clutch was going to be a problem.
Well, think about this. He only needed one more stop with that clutch, and he could have gone the distance.
That's the kind of difference made between victory and failure at Indianapolis so many times, time and time again. Well, John Paul Jr., who's been a leader of the race, is now in danger of going a lap down to Eddie Cheever. As Eddie Cheever is making mincemeat out of the rest of the field.
Well, Cheever, they've got this thing hooked up. They didn't make any change in the last stop. That's always a good sign when you get the car where you want it before the very last stop, because that can put you in or out of the money.
163 laps. We're now into the final 100 miles of the Indianapolis 500. And Eddie Cheever, the leader, followed by Buddy Lazier and Steve Knapp. John Paul Jr. sitting just in front of the leader, the only other car on the leader lap.
Paul's actually hustling this car pretty good. He can't afford to get a lap down, obviously, so he's trying to keep Eddie behind him. Eddie just got a great run off that corner, though.
And here is Eddie Cheever and gives a little wave to John Paul Jr. as he puts him one lap down. We'll return with more of the Indianapolis 500 after this message and a word from our ABC station. The blue and black Rachel potato chip car number 51 of Eddie Cheever just clicked off a lap at 210.3 miles an hour as the leader of the Indianapolis 500. You see Cheever there, then an intervening car, and then the 91 car. That purple and yellow machine, that belongs to Buddy Lazier. And now looking back for third place of Steve Knapp. He drives the number 55, a rookie at Indianapolis. John Paul Jr. really turned the pressure on, ran about 211 miles an hour the last lap, but of course, just before we went away, you saw that he went one lap behind the run of the race.
Well, he's going to try to get that lap back, and I don't understand why his speed's fluctuating so much. The speed, we indicated the leader's running 210. The real key to that is second and third place are running in the 209 bracket right as we speak.
Matter of fact, that's exactly the number that they ticked off on the last lap, while Eddie Cheever is still running at 210.2, so he only fell off a tenth on that last circuit around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, 2.5 miles. Davey Hamilton, a lap behind the race, is in fifth. So is Scott Sharp. 2 laps back, Robbie Unser and Kenny Breck. 3 back, Michener, Yaley, and Stefan Gregoire.
But how about this story? This Knapp kid has done a tremendous job. 23rd to 3rd. That's a pretty good effort. After carburation day, he was very concerned about pit stops. They've calculated everything. He was having a little trouble hitting his spots. They got one more stop to go, Paul.
Now, we do expect the stops to come almost any time now. We can take a look at that fuel window. Look at them. The top 3. And about 5-6 laps away, they should all be in here, if not sooner.
Well, they've got one stop left. They can go somewhere between 25 and 31 or 2 laps, depending on what the combination is. So they can all do it easily in one more stop.
They all pitted back about the 154th lap. Jackaroo?
Well, let's tell you one of the reasons that the crew is telling me that John Paul ended up going that lap down. It seems that the yellow light that we tell you about that's for information purposes only on the dashboard, remember we've talked about it in our Pep Boys IRL track facts, well, it inadvertently went on, must have been mistakenly keyed by a radio transmission, and John Paul backed out of the throttle. As soon as they realized the yellow wasn't out, he got back in the throttle, but he'd already gone a lap down. Look for John Paul to pit in 5 or 6 laps.
Emphasis on how important it is to understand that the technology is being offered you. That light system brand new, and everyone has made the point advisory, primarily as an advisory situation. Too bad for John Paul. Jerry Punch?
Checking on the fuel window for the first and third place cars. First, Eddie Cheever. A lap ago, his window opened up, so now if we were to get a caution flag or anything would have happened and he were to pit, he could make it the rest of the way. Owen Snyder says they will not opt to pit until lap 180 to 182. Now the third place car of Steve Knapp talking with Jim Frazier. Likewise, this time by, their fuel window opened up, so they're okay on fuel, but they may not pit to lap 182 to 185. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
And I think we'll see Buddy Lazier long before that. They haven't given us us a specific number, but it looked like Ron Himmelgarn giving 4 fingers to the crew just moments ago. That would make it 175. Now, Buddy, on the last stop, they made a change. He didn't want the change, we're told. They've been trying to balance the car since. He's been fighting a push. Now it looks like we're 3 laps away from Buddy Lazier's final stop.
And of course, for all of those, that would in fact be the final stop of the Indianapolis 500. 172 laps now complete. We're working number 173. Cheever slowed down quite a bit. 206 miles an hour on the last lap. And little note to our local stations, we will be doing a run-over station break here coming up in just a bit.
Yeah, actually, Lazier's a little bit quicker than Cheever the last couple of laps, so I don't know if that's Cheever in traffic or not, but it's interesting to see if Buddy's going to be able to close this gap.
Pace for Cheever came back up to 210.2 miles an hour. Might be getting a little bit of a tow helping him out there. So Eddie Cheever is the leader of the Indianapolis 500 on the 174th lap. We'll be back after this from our local stations. Well, just a moment ago, the yellow light flashed on once again at Indianapolis. You're riding with Greg Waugh, who slowed down on the front stretch. And here is the reason. Greg Waugh certainly it. Look at that. Whoa. Well, and he kept going.
Well, he got way out of the groove, and he was just trying to inch it around the corner, and finally got up the marbles, and the thing did a couple tail slappers. You can see he's missed the groove. For some reason, he's way up high. He's just trying to get through the corner. He gets a little marbles just on the exit, and the thing does a little tank slapper, and he slaps the wall.
You know, Scott Sharp was working past him there, and he saw the debris, paper debris on the front of his car as he slapped it up against the wall. And despite the fact that the no pit sign is out, at least one competitor is going to find his way into the pits, and that's your early leader of the race, Greg Ray.
Many laps down, so it can't hurt him.
Don't forget, after the Indianapolis 500 here, next on ABC Sports, the J.C. Penney LPGA Skins Game from the Stonebriar Country Club. Well, it has been a most interesting Indianapolis 500. A great deal going on all up and down the top of the order. Most of it focused on the front of the field. 176 laps are now complete. And the assumption would be, we showed you the fuel window a moments ago. You've heard the report from the pits that the 3 leaders of the race will all peel off and head for a pit stop as they come around at the conclusion of this lap. And that stop for all 3 would also take them to the end of the 500 miles and turn this from an endurance run into a sprint. And just as we suggested, not just the leaders, but it seems everybody has taken this opportunity to roll down onto the pit road. The 51 car is the leader of the race, Eddie Cheever.
Well, they bunch up in the pits. They're all trying to get to their pit box.
There's second place, the 91 car of Buddy Lazier. And Steve Knapp would be the other. Here's the first 2. Eddie Cheever down on your lower left, and Buddy Lazier upper left.
Cheever out first. Good, clean, fast stop for Cheever.
He's almost too fast for Cheever. Boy, that was a good stop. Lazier. And he's away. Boy, traffic coming out pretty quick. Speed limit in the pits, 100 miles an hour.
And John Paul is having trouble in the pit lane. They're pushing him. I don't know if it's going to catch or not.
So John Paul Jr. struggles a little bit to come out as the rest of the leaders, Lazier, Cheever, and Knapp, make their stops. It should now be a run to the 500th mile at Indianapolis. The Pet Boys Indy Racing League now in the closing laps of the 82nd running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. The yellow light is on at the moment. We expect a green flag when they get over on the front stretch. You look down from the Goodyear blimp as they head behind the Corvette pace car to turn 3. Jeff Ward, as he came past the line, was in front of the field, but you can see that Eddie Cheever, the leader of the race, there he is the second car in line. And then there are 2 cars separating Cheever from Buddy Lazier. So it will make for an interesting restart as we look at the lineup at the 178th lap mark. Of course, remember, the race changes so much in its complexion in these final laps. Seldom is the leader with 10 laps to go, the leader at the finish. Green comes out. Cheever easily handles up Jeff Ward.
You see Lazier looking for a spot underneath. He doesn't have enough of a momentum to carry himself on by. In the short shoot, he'll go underneath.
So Lazier finally gets rolling up. He runs in second place.
In traffic, the orange car, you see Davey Hamilton looking for a way to get around. Yellow's back out.
And again, no obvious indication as to why. Well, that certainly could be an indication.
Look at the fuel.
Jack Hewitt has a motor gone.
Look at the spray coming out of the back of that car, and he was right up in the groove. It would have been nicer for the other traffic if he would have kept that thing down a little, because there's a lot of fluid coming out of the back of that thing.
So 46-year-old rookie Jack Hewitt apparently has an engine let go, and that brings out the 11th yellow of the day and reminds us of how quickly things can change at Indy. Borg Warner Trophy, who's going to get this placed on the back of their car in about 19 laps? We're still under caution. Jack Hewitt was a lot more than just an engine.
Well, fluid came out and got the car sideways. Jack did a tremendous job of catching that thing. He definitely didn't want that kind of yahoo at this time in the race.
Yeah, 26 years of racing on short tracks paid off for Jack right there.
Well, he got up out of the groove, but I think that was the fluid that got him started. He did a couple tank slappers, but caught it.
Jerry Punch?
Well, Tommy, Steve, we don't see anything coming out of the car here. He sits on pit road. They fuel the car. They put 4 tires on it. And Chuck Buckman just said he got up out of the groove, spun it, but he's okay, and headed back down pit road.
Well, I guess I didn't know that fuel, if it came out of the engine compartment of the cockpit, but he definitely missed the groove.
So as we are ready for the restart, and again, perhaps a sprint to the finish of the Indy 500, Eddie Cheever, the blue and black 51 car, is at the front of the field, and then 2 cars that are not on the lead lap. Buddy Lazier, there's his 91 purple and yellow Delta Faucet machine. He sits 4th back in that line. And then there are 4 more cars back to Steve Knapp, who currently runs in 3rd place. Already Cheever begins to pick the pace up.
A big advantage to have lap cars in between you. It really helps you get away from that 2nd place car and keeps him from getting a big jump on you. But look at Lazier. He's right there. He's got a tow. He's going to get by both these guys getting into turn 1.
Actually got a tow off Cheever's teammate, Robbie Unser. And now Lazier on the charge. Lazier in 2nd, trying to catch the leader onto the backstretch. Buddy Lazier's wife, Kara, watches from the pit area at the Speedway. Just got married last fall.
Buddy did a tremendous job on that restart. He had a couple cars in between him, and it could have been a lot uglier than that, but did a tremendous job, timed it just right, and the leader didn't get away from him very far.
Boy, he did. He knew exactly where he was going. Tom, we've talked time and time again as Buddy Lazier looks down, checks his dash, and continues his pursuit. We've talked about the advantage that being a winner gives you, some secret knowledge.
Well, yeah, it gives you a lot of experience, and that's what Buddy's using right now. These restarts and things are very critical. But the key for these guys right now is if Buddy got his car adjusted, got the handling where he wanted to, if he made the right adjustments on that last stop. Now, we're not sure if Cheever made any adjustments. Remember the stop before, Paul? Eddie decided not to make any change because he thought that Lyondike was the guy he had to race. But Lazier is right there on his back.
And Tom and Paul, Buddy Lazier pulled out all the stops as he came to this Indy 500. They went back and put the dog paw, reminiscent of the year that he won this race from his dog, Indiana, up on the tail fin inside the number 9. They also took his old logo, where he's a downhill ski racer, and put it on the side of the cockpit. They said, we'll take every little bit of luck we can get.
And Jack, we were here. You saw the shot of Kara, his wife, watching the restart. His father, Bob, a former racer himself, pacing back here. He turned and said, that was a champion's move.
Well, he's going to have to wag the dog a little bit in his last few laps to get this job done, Paul.
Scott Sharp was 5th. He came into the pit area and has climbed out of the car. We'll update you on that as well, but the battle is right here. 1st and 2nd at the Indy 500. 0.3 of a second separating them last time across the line. And then it's stretched out to 0.8 of a second. Still both very much in contact. 213 miles an hour. The last lap for Eddie Cheever.
Well, they're very close. The key is who works good on a full tank of fuel and who's got the setup when they go empty towards the end of the laps.
Both cars are fueled all the way to the end of the race, as is 3rd place Steve Knapp. Davey Hamilton is 4th. Robbie Unser is 5th, but they are 1 and 2 laps behind the lead respectively.
You might have saw Cheever coming off of turn 4, using up the whole racetrack, very close to the outside wall, Paul. So Eddie's after it. He's chasing it hard.
Oh, once again, he turns a lap at 213.1 miles an hour compared to Buddy Lazier's 211.6. Laps to go. We mentioned Scott Sharp, Jackaroo.
Well, let's ask him, Paul, what put you out of it, Scott?
Suddenly on the restart, I went to shift up to 2nd gear, and we had no gears. And all of a sudden, we had no gears, and I couldn't even go back to 1st or 3rd or anything.
Paul, last year it was engines. This year it seems to be problems with the gearbox.
It's interesting, Paul, in the gearbox problems. There was really no clue that the gearbox were any kind of problem leading up to the start of this race.
And as we continue to watch this battle for the lead at Indianapolis, don't forget next on ABC Sports, the J.C. Penney LPGA Skins Game, featuring holes worth $20,000, $30,000, and $40,000. But right now, it's the lead at the Indianapolis 500 that is in some dispute, though Buddy Lazier has not been able to keep pace with Eddie Cheever. There is Greg Ray, early leader in this run, who once he began to suffer mechanical ills fell further and further and further back. He's now 19 laps behind the leader in 18th position. 213.8. Eddie Cheever is driving to win the Indy 500, picks up the pace.
It's the last segment, Paul. This is quick as we've seen him run all day, so Eddie is saved a little bit for the end.
Of course, a longtime veteran over from Formula One. There's the interval on the last laps. You can see Eddie Cheever running 213, nearly 214 mile an hour laps, is pulling it out. But what toll is it taking on his machine? Buddy Lazier has been right down at 209 miles an hour the last couple. Steve Knapp at 207. He's increasing still from 242 to 3.17. Eddie Cheever is driving away from Buddy Lazier.
Eddie told me during the week that he's sort of between girlfriends, Paul. He said he wanted to run real fast during the race and give him better odds to find a new one.
Well, let's remember, as they're getting ready to cross the 190th lap, Tom, that so many times he who leads 190 does not lead 200 laps.
You got to run all 500 miles, and I'm sure Eddie's starting to listen for strange noises about this time of the race.
The car thus far has been absolutely flawless. Eddie dropped off a little bit on the pace at 212.2 miles an hour last time around.
Yeah, but still we got trouble.
This will bring the yellow out. That's Marco Greco from Brazil.
That looks like a motor problem, but now we're going to have the yellow. We're going to pack it up. We're going to have one more restart to see who wins this 500-mile race.
There is exactly the kind of situation that we suggested can change so drastically the final laps of the Indianapolis 500. We'll be back right after this. Back at the Indianapolis 500, we are still under the yellow. The stories from the beginning of the day, well, AJ's boys have not fared as well as he would have hoped. Team Menard's guys, not well at all, both out. Former champions, well, Harry Leyendyke is certainly in trouble and as spectator, while Buddy Lazier still has a chance at winning his second race. And the Rocky Road, Sharp out, Ray finally out, and Eddie Cheever running first. And no more seconds. Both Goodyear and Guerrero are out. Jack Arute?
Well, let's tell you the strategy that Eddie Cheever and Owen Snyder have devised. They don't have a problem with their fuel. So what they're going to do is they're going to use the gear selection between 5th and 6th gear. We've talked about it many times. On the restart, they'll bump up to the 5th gear. That's what you use in a passing situation when you want to have a little more speed. Snyder told Cheever, let's use that to put some distance between ourselves and Lazier. Once we feel that we're comfortable, we'll go to 6th and cruise to victory lane, Gary.
Well, let's check the strategy in the Lazier camp. Ron Himmelgarn, you've been here before, but what can you do in these final laps?
We got to have a fantastic start right here. We've got to have a fantastic start right here.
He gave you a great restart the last time, but in the open track, I mean, if he doesn't get on the restart, is it over?
Well, if we get in the front, I'm sure the track's going to get awful narrow.
Oh boy, does that set the stage, Paul?
It certainly does, and you're absolutely right, Gary. The Lazier restarts have been just spectacular today. And, you know, this time we do have the field in very tight contact. Now, as we cross the 192nd lap, 12 times at lap 190, the leader at 190 has failed to win the Indianapolis 500. In each of the last 3 years, the leader at lap 190 has failed to win. I don't know if the numbers are working with or against Eddie Cheever at this point.
I know Eddie didn't want to see that last yellow. Believe me on this, that wasn't what Eddie wanted to see. He felt he had him covered. Now he's got to go through one more restart.
7 to go. Eddie Cheever under the yellow. Let's remember some of the other factors of this race. We've seen a number of gearbox failures. That kind of thing could certainly come on a restart. We've seen Buddy Lazier with great restarts, but we've seen Eddie Cheever with spectacularly fast laps, especially in the last 5 or 6 laps. He has been running faster than anyone else on the racetrack. It seems that Cheever is faster, but Lazier is getting better starts, and that sets it up. And then let's not forget Steve Knapp. He's the rookie in 3rd place. Jerry Punch?
Jim Frazier asked Steve Knapp, can you hang with him? He's going to 5th gear also. He said, I'm a rookie, but I'm going to do my best. I think we've got a shot.
You see Knapp back there, the black nose on that fluorescent car. He's going to have to handle up some traffic in front of him. But the last couple of restarts, he's done that pretty well.
Well, he has, but one of the traffic is one of Foyt's cars. Kenny Breck is right in front of him. He started in the front row. He had some trouble early, but he's going to be tough to get by.
Ready to go green once again. The pace car has already begun to accelerate. The mind game begins between Eddie Cheever and Buddy Lazier. This could be the key to the race right here. They both surge a little bit.
Look at them surging. They're trying to get him to brake check. This was a famous Bobby Unser move, actually. Get him to brake check. The old head fake and go on the basketball court.
Oh, the game is very definitely underway. And we're ready to put the race in play at the Indianapolis 500. Looking for the green. Look at Cheever. He sweeps way down to the inside. What a move to try and keep Buddy Lazier off of his back. 6 to go.
Well, he's actually trying to break the draft there, and I think he got the job done. I think once Eddie gets onto the back straightaway, then it's going to be very difficult for Buddy to hang on.
Eddie Cheever, the well-spoken thinking man's race driver. Not to detract anything from Buddy Lazier. So now we count down laps to the end of the Indianapolis 500. And the battle is quite simply these two men.
Again, Eddie moving around in the straightaway, trying to throw the draft off.
5 to go. Cheever 210 last time around. Lazier 2085.
A little bit slower than when they were full of fuel. That's sort of interesting, Paul. They're actually running slower now that they're running the fuel out of the car than they did when they were full on full tanks at about 212, 213.
Whoa. Eddie, that's what he did in qualifying too.
Well, Eddie uses up all the racetrack, and he's not giving that room, very much room to the wall. I mean, there's an easier way to white wall those tires, Eddie. We got to talk about this.
4 to go at Indianapolis.
Again, you today is not leaving much distance between him and the wall on the exit of these turns.
And look at his teammate, Robbie Unser. He's not in the fight, but he's certainly getting racy back there behind Lazier. Steve Knapp in third place has not been able to get into this fight.
No, but Knapp's done a tremendous job. Here's a rookie that's come from way back and is going to be in the third position as we speak. Actually, interesting story, Paul. Steve Knapp's chief mechanic is Mitch Davis, who was Eddie Cheever's chief mechanic last year.
3 laps to go. Tampa, Florida's Eddie Cheever on the backstretch now. He's traveled this world. He's lived around the world. Speaks 5 different languages. Brought Owen Snyder over to help crew his car for this Indy 500. Owen, who has a lot of history out of Albuquerque with the Unser family. He brought a lot of knowledge. To go at Indianapolis. Cheever pulls away last lap at 212 miles an hour. The lap before that at 213. Driving away from the competition, Eddie Cheever is on his way to being the 58th different winner of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Next time around, there it is, the white flag, 2.5 miles to go for Eddie Cheever. The crowd standing, the crowd cheering. He can almost carry the car from this point. His final pass down the backstretch.
He'd like to get through 3 and 4 before he starts carrying it.
Final pass through the north end. Off of turn 4, down the long front stretch, screaming for the yard of bricks, hand up, saluting the crowd. Eddie Cheever has won the 82nd running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Last owner-driver to win at Indy was A.J. Foyt in 1977. Now, Eddie Cheever is one of those. Last lap at 210 miles an hour, Jerry Punch.
Owen, they're celebrating Owen Snyder. Congratulations on a great, outstanding effort today.
I'll tell you, it was a team effort. You know, we made a mistake halfway in the race. It didn't affect us. We got back on our game plan, and what a team effort. I mean, I've got so many guys to thank, so many guys that have helped me 10, 15 years ago in my career, and I think I brought just a little bit to Eddie. Eddie used his experience today, and well, I'll tell you what, he was there. He was there all day. He was on his game.
Owen, thanks a lot. Head to victory lane for the celebration. 39-year-old Owen Snyder, his second Indy 500 win as a chief mechanic. Paul?
Second place, Buddy Lazier pulls up to salute the winner of the race. Owen Snyder, of course, helped Al Unser Jr. go to victory here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Today, he helps Eddie Cheever. And how about those people from Rachel's Potato Chips who got on board as a sponsor on an otherwise unsponsored car just a week and a half ago? They may be the happiest of all.
They sure might. Eddie says sponsors have got to be an extension to the team, and he's done a great job for him today.
Robbie Unser, the second highest place rookie, finishes in 5th place. He is, of course, the team car to Eddie Cheever. Cheever, Lazier, Knapp, Hamilton, Robbie Unser. Those are the top 5 at Indianapolis. And Cheever's just trying to find room to be able to make that left-hand turn into victory lane and the winner's circle at Indianapolis. This is going to be an incredibly popular victory at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The very likable Eddie Cheever. And he is savoring the moment, as he should.
It's fun to see the other teams out there giving the congratulations as he's coming down pit road.
Well, the peers, probably know better than anyone else what it takes to get to Indy, and moreover, what it takes to win at Indy. and they appreciate the accomplishment here today. And the Unser jinx, by the way, is broken on the 24th of May. Into victory lane for Eddie Cheever. And here with the Pep Boys winner's circle is Jack Arute.
Well, Eddie Cheever has toiled first in Formula 3000, then in Formula One, and then in kart, and now in the Pep Boys Indy Racing League. But he also once said that it was a living, breathing organism they called the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He gets the congratulations. The official Borg Warner trophy is being positioned on his rear wing. Triumphant as he is, Eddie Cheever, now calling Tampa, Florida his home, has come to victory lane. They say that Indy is a place that makes American heroes. And Eddie Cheever, you are the winner of the 82nd Indianapolis 500. Congratulations.
I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
He gets the congratulations of Owen Snyder. Snyder's been here before with Al Unser Jr. Eddie, let's go back to the start of the race. There was an altercation with J.J. Yaley, and we seem to think that maybe you were involved in it as well. Was it a close call?
I turned into one at the start of the race, and somebody bumped me from behind. The car went sideways, and I thought, oh, I don't want to end this way. And I had about 15 guardian angels out to me today. I had 5 or 6 close calls, but I squeezed through all of them.
Let's talk about near the end of the race. It looked like you were going to do a wall wang up there. It was reminiscent coming out of a corner of your qualifying run. How close was it?
I wasn't going to finish second. Second was not in the books today. They're either going to win or not finish at all.
Well, they say the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is a place for heroes, American heroes. And now the emblematic sip of the All-American drink. Eddie Cheever, when you started your driving career, what did Indy mean to you?
My father told me I was raised in Italy. And my father told me that if you're going to win one race in your life, win the Indy 500. This one's for my dad.
Paul?
Eddie Cheever led 6 times for 76 laps to become the next American hero. Unofficial results of the 82nd running of the Indy 500 with Steve Knapp as the highest placed rookie in the field. Buddy Lazier just couldn't pedal fast enough to catch Eddie Cheever at the end of the race. The fastest rookie, Jimmy Kite, up at 11th, followed by the senior rookie, Jack Hewitt. So the Indianapolis 500-mile race has now been run. We hope that Jim Guthrie is out of surgery and doing well. And we'll be back after this. The Pep Boys Indy Racing League and the 82nd running of the Indianapolis 500 is now history. And Eddie Cheever has won. Buddy Lazier in second. Gary Gerald?
Buddy Lazier, I know you gave it everything that was humanly possible. That last restart was the one that was so critical. Did you think you had a chance to overhaul him there?
Well, we made a pit stop right before that, made a bunch of changes to our car, so we were hoping that we had some more for him because we were just wide open and we just didn't have enough. I used up all the settings, all the adjustments inside the cockpit, and there just wasn't any more for me this time. Next time we'll have to come back with a little more, and we gave it everything we had.
Still a race to be proud of. Great job.
Thank you very much.
Jerry?
30-year-old Steve Knapp, a rookie from 23rd to 3rd. Steve, is this the way you dreamed it would be with your first run at Indy?
I just was happy to be here, but I knew on the second lap around here that the car was just glued to the track and I could pretty much do whatever I wanted to. And, Miller Milling Company and Prima Donna Resorts, they were backing us here, and I wouldn't be here without them. It's been a long road. Thank you, Carl Haas, for the recommendation to Bob Hancher, everybody. I can't believe it.
He said he wanted to drive a Dayglow orange car because he saw Mario Andretti win here in '69 in Dayglow orange. He said, I wanted to be that my first ride, and look what it did for me. Paul?
Oh, it did a marvelous job, giving him a 3rd place finish. So Eddie Cheever now begins to enjoy winner's circle at Indianapolis. With 23 lead changes among 10 drivers in the 500 miles, Eddie Cheever was hit in the very first turn, had the car sideways, but he persevered, and he took the 82nd running of the Indianapolis 500. Congratulations to Eddie Cheever of Tampa, Florida. Now let's send you back to Brent Musburger in New York.